their TV
Please
on.
re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Okay, got it.
Or it's got their TV off, or else go on mute. All right, we're close enough. Oh, good, it's 6 o'clock. Welcome to the Land Use Board meeting of May 2nd, 2022. We will begin this evening by standing and saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag of the United States of America
and to the
and to the republic for which
for
it
which
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty and
justice.
justice for all.
Thank you.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by postings on the bulletin board in the entrance hall of the Beach Haven Municipal Building and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times and the Asbury Park Press. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision for each individual application. Decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call, Mrs. Eddles,
Here.
Mr. Herensky,
He's here. He just probably muted himself.
Oh, he's muted.
He's frozen.
He's frozen.
Oh, now he's moving.
Oh, he's moving.
Scott, unmute yourself.
Unfreeze yourself.
all right, we'll come back.
He's back.
Mrs. Leonard,
Yes.
Mr. Muha,
Here.
Mr. Pisano,
Here.
Mr. Stevens,
Here.
Mrs. Baxter, Mr. Meadow,
Here.
Mrs. Ballmiller,
Here.
Mr. Jenna,
Here.
Mr. Tinquist,
Here.
Mr. Balbo,
Here.
Mr. Lafredo,
Here.
and Mr. Herensky. I know.
Scott, wake up, Scott.
Scott's still muted.
Wave to him, Scott. He's flopping his. He's probably cussing at us, but anyway, we know he's here. That's so, is Nicole, did she sign in?
No,
No, I was in contact with her today. She said she was going to be on.
Because that, if she does come, that means everybody's in attendance, which is great. Okay, moving right along to new business. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes from April?
they were very long.
Yeah.
A lot of long-winded people. What can I say?
Wait till next month.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Nicole's
Yes.
coming in now, too.
Nicole is? Okay,
Yep, she's just joining.
all right.
And Scott's on.
So everybody approve the minutes. Anybody against them, say nay. If you have an approval, say yay. We don't need to have a motion for the minutes.
Good. Yay.
Yay.
All right,
Yay.
everybody's happy with the minutes? Good.
Yeah.
Approval of the bills. Can I have a motion to approve the bills?
I so moved, Penny.
Second, Jerry.
All right, Ms. Eddles,
Yes.
Mr. Herensky,
Yes.
Mrs. Lenhard,
Yes.
Mr. Muha,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mrs. Baxter,
Yes.
Mr. Meadow,
Yes.
Mrs. Ballmiller,
Yes.
Mr. Jenna,
Yes.
Mr. Tinquist,
Yes.
Mr. Balbo,
Yes.
and Mr. Lafredo.
Yes.
Bills approved.
All right, good. Moving along to the escrow returns. We have two for Victoria Rose. One is in the amount of $63.80 and the other is $15,104.04. Can I have a motion to approve those two, please?
So
Motion to
moved.
approve.
Penny, who's second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe.
We also have an escrow return request. It's on the next page. I don't know if you wanted to add
Yeah,
it in with the two.
and right, that application, I just did those two together since they were both the same place for the Creperia for $974.62.
Okay. and then we
Um,
have-
Can somebody explain to me how long, Frank or Bob, the town is allowed to hold money in escrow? What's the deal on releasing it and keeping it?
We could probably keep it as long as you want, but
Really?
no, but I mean, mainly if someone decides that they no longer want to continue an application or the application's complete, we've signed the map and, they're into the next phase, then they have a right to request their escrow back. And then normally we usually check to make sure all the bills are paid. And then we sign off on a recommendation to release a balance.
And normally, what is it, 6 months?
Well, it could, I mean, we've had some where
A
the
year?
applicant was denied and within a month, they're getting the balance of their escrow back.
Okay,
It all depends. It depends on when they request it too.
okay. So we're returning all their money. That's good.
All right?
Then we have the 3-person review. We had quite a few people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 approvals for the 3-person. One was La Bama Express, which is a restaurant up, I think it's in Ship Bottom or somewhere up there. They're moving into where Carmen's was.
Oh, good.
And then La Trata Hobbies and Collectibles. Most of these are up in Schooner's Wharf and Bay Village. Echo Beach Life, Maui Loa Flowers. And before anybody gets upset, this Maui Loa Flowers, when I looked at that application as a 3-person, I wondered about the balloons because I know balloons are bad
Yep.
in Beach Haven. But the ordinance says only if they're filled with helium. If they're filled with air, evidently balloons are okay. So she has balloons, so I just wanted everybody to be aware of that. But I guess you have to blow them up yourself. They're not the kind that blow away in the air, I don't think. American by the Seashore shop, the bunkhouse was approved as an open art gallery and retail shop on 9th Street. And the very last one is Ann Cohen Photography. This is, I believe, where Windcrest Home is, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
property is being sold. But evidently, these people want to just rent it for the summer and sell art there. So that's what's happening with them. Okay, moving right along to old business, we have resolution 2022-05, the Singer resolution. Did everybody get a chance to look at that? If you did, do you have any questions or corrections or anything?
Mm-mm.
All right, can I have a motion to approve resolution 2022-05?
Motion to approve.
Thanks, Joe.
Second, Penny.
Ms. Baxter,
Guess she's not here. Go
Yes,
ahead.
yes, I'm here.
Yes,
Oh,
she
you're
did.
here. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Mr. Meadow,
I didn't vote on that. Do I get to approve the minutes?
No.
nope, I'm sorry. Ms. Ballmiller,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mr. Muha,
Yes.
Mr. Jenna,
Yes.
and Mr. Tinquist.
Yes.
Resolution approved.
Okay, the next resolution is 2022-06, the Atlantic City Electric. Did everybody get a chance to go through that lengthy document?
Mm-hmm.
And can Frank give us an update on the revisions that were made?
Yes, I received a revised set of plans via letter on April 22nd. They've addressed all the items that we were concerned with the exception of the confusion on the regulators, which are on the corner mounted on the raised utility poles. We had asked them to look into that, and they looked at 3 options. I'm looking at their letter. One was to move the regulators along 2nd Street or Bay Ave. It said this would not be any less intrusive and would not be recommended as their presence will still be impacting the neighbors and community. Second option was move the regulars on site further back. That would require additional poles to accommodate and add clutter to the substation property. And based on the constraints, this would only by a few feet that would not significantly impact the aesthetics. And the last item was replace the regulators at the current location with new regulators. And that's what they're proposing to do. I did have a conversation with Ken Mosca today specifically about that. And he said, for right now, that's their option. But they aren't giving up on trying to look further into possibly moving these. But they have no answer right now. It's a transmission line issue. And so this is the option they're presenting us right now to change those regulators to make them look a lot nicer in the same location. They're not going to start construction until September. So he said in the next several months, they are going to look harder at those to see if they can come up with something else. But right now, that's their answer. So I believe the resolution, that was not a firm condition in the resolution. I think we asked them to look into it. So at this point, that's their answer. In 3 months from now, their answer might be they've looked at it and can move them. But for now, that's what we have.
Any other questions about this resolution?
Well, Frank, I'll just ask you, I mean, the copy I got was tiny, so I don't want to go blind trying to read it. Are you satisfied with the full-size plans where they're putting the fence and the fence they're putting? Were you satisfied
Yes.
with everything they put on?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. And the board left it up to Frank to make the call on the fencing. Look at this when they gave us the revised plans.
Frank, I called you and asked you if it was possible if they could move that first fence on Bay Avenue back and put the trees in front of it so the trees could be watered and live. Was that an option?
I don't know if that's an option. I know they wanted security on the site and they wanted to keep the fence out by the curb line, but I'll
Well,
ask
there'd be
them that.
security, there'd
Right.
just be the trees there. They
Yeah,
still
I
have the
think
fence behind the trees.
at one point, I think even if the fence was behind the trees, they were concerned people would be behind the trees near the fence. I think it's
I mean, it's a
security,
4-foot fence. If they're that worried, somebody can jump over a 4-foot fence. I mean, that's
Probably.
not secure.
probably.
I'm just
I mean,
thinking
I
of trying
can-
to get these trees to live so we don't have a bunch of dead trees sitting there.
I can raise that issue again with them to see if
Yeah.
they'll consider that.
I mean, the whole option, the whole long way
Mhm.
along was the fact that it was so unsightly. So we're trying to
Right.
make this site as attractive as possible since it's almost in the middle of town. And having live, healthy trees is one of the most important things of hiding that mess behind it. So you
Right.
might bring that up to them.
I'll bring it up.
Why can't we require that they put an irrigation system in for those?
I know, I
trees?
don't know why they don't do that either. I thought it was maybe because water and electricity don't mix and it was behind the fence. I don't know.
Not by the trees.
Right, but the
think-
They
trees
also have
are
water to-
behind the fence, so they're thinking, no, not on our property. But if we put the trees in front of the fence, I was hoping they could irrigate them.
I'll approach them and ask them that.
Yeah,
And they have water on site because they said it was going to be there in case there was a fire. So
there
For
you go,
fire
Tom.
suppression.
See,
All right, I'll check into that.
You
and see
tell them
if
we
they
want the
can-
trees
Mhm.
irrigated.
All right.
Frank, one other comment too about the regulators. Can they put in a facade, even though it's way up high in the air, to just cover those regulators? If there's some kind of fence or facade, it would look a lot prettier than those things that are there right now.
Right.
They're so
Right.
tall, though. I don't know what you could put up there.
Well, like
No,
a
no,
type
they
of
look like
screen.
trees.
They could
It'd
what?
be like a,
Like a
like
type
a-
of screen.
again, I'll talk to them about it.
Yeah.
We have time. They're not going to start construction till sometime in September.
We're all about looks in Beach Haven.
I
I
understand.
know, but remember, we all had to vote on it because we're gonna jeopardize the electric in the town.
Right. And I
Exactly.
didn't want to be the one that said, oh, they didn't vote on it, so we have no electricity this summer.
I mean, these things are incidental, but I'll bring them all up. And I don't see any reason why they can't,
Good.
dress them up.
Most people don't have their electric things in the middle of town.
Right.
Okay, so let's move along and have a motion to approve this resolution 2022. Oh, wait a minute. Nicole, you had something about license/easement. Oh, but you're muted.
I wanted to talk to our board professionals about that, meaning, when we were all talking about we were using the term easement, but then there was some verbiage about the license agreement I saw on the site plans. A license agreement / easement, those two words and two meanings are not the same. So I think, we're all volunteers in this board. So when we're using a word that does not have the same meaning, can the board professionals advise or point that out and help us? Because an easement and a license agreement are two different things.
What they gave was a license. They gave a
Right.
But
license.
we, as board members, were using the word easement.
But we don't have easement in the resolution.
No, no, they do. It says,
Does,
not in this resolution, but in the
Right.
one prior. It just got brought up because it was on the site plan, and I'm thinking to
Right.
myself, we were using easement, so I went back and saw that it said license agreement / easement.
okay. All
They're
right.
not one and the same.
No,
It was one
know
of the
that.
other.
but as long as it doesn't have it in this new ordinance, I mean, new resolution, that's all I want to make clear. We don't, we just have license. All
Yeah,
right,
it's on the site plan identified as a license agreement.
right, good, perfect.
Can
All
a
right.
resident have some input at this point?
Who's that?
This is Richard Cole for the Howard and Marion Trust
Oh,
residence, which is right next door to the property.
No,
Bonnie, there's no discussion on it.
no discussion, I'm sorry.
Well,
Not to the public right now. All right, can I have a motion to approve this resolution 2022-06?
Motion to approve.
Is that Joe?
Yes.
Second, Jerry.
Joe and Jerry.
Ms. Baxter,
Yes.
Mr. Meadow,
Yes. Sorry, I muted myself. My dog was barking.
Mrs. Ballmiller,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mrs. Lenhard,
Yes,
Mr. Jenna,
Yes.
and Mr. Tinquist.
yes.
Resolution approved.
good. All right, starting our public hearing tonight, we're going to go out of order and take application 2022-10, the Friar Sidewalk Waiver Approval, which is 1920 Virginia Avenue. The applicant is in the process of constructing a new single-family dwelling on the property. A waiver of the sidewalk requirement is sought with regard to the frontages of the applicant's property on both Virginia Avenue and Leeward Avenue. Okay, who's representing the Friars?
Good evening, James Raven on behalf of the applicant, Bruce Fryer and Amy Fryer.
Okay,
Jim, I always mark the exhibits ahead of time to streamline this. So A1 will be your letter with the application. It's dated April 11th, 22. A2 is Leon Tiska's plot plan survey dated November 16th, 2020. And then Frank gave us two letters. One's a completeness letter, that's B1. The second is his waiver review, that's B2. Both of them are April 19th. So if your witnesses need to testify as to any exhibits, just ask them to reference them.
Thank you. So as Ms. Lenhard noted, the subject property is located at 1920 Virginia Avenue. And the applicant is currently constructing a single-family dwelling at the property. And what they're seeking is a waiver from the requirement to install sidewalks as part of the new construction. So the applicant's property is unique in that it's located in the Webster Lagoon area, and it has frontages on two streets, both Virginia Avenue and Leeward Avenue. And the adjoining property next door, which is lot 32, was previously before this board for a similar application, which was approved a couple of years ago. And basically the reason is that Webster Lagoon is such a unique area within Beach Haven where there's not heavy pedestrian traffic, not heavy vehicular traffic, and they're willing to put the curbs in, but they are requesting the sidewalk waiver for both the Leeward Avenue frontage and the Virginia Avenue frontage of the property. It's deep within Webster Lagoon. So I know there was a recent application that I was involved in where there was frontage along West Avenue as well. I know that the board is definitely wants to have sidewalks on West Avenue, but here we're in a much more secluded part of Webster Lagoon where it's really not necessary to have the sidewalks. And I know every application stands on its own merit, but the adjoining property next door is very similarly situated to this property. A waiver was requested with respect to that property. And I did submit, Lauren, do you have that aerial photograph available, the Google
I do.
photograph? Thank you.
Sorry, it's taking a minute to pull that.
Sure, thank you.
Jim, let's mark that as A3.
Okay. So as can be seen on this aerial photograph, thank you, Lauren. In between where it says, where you have that little V shape and it says Virginia Ave on the bottom portion of the V and Leeward Ave on the upper portion, right in the middle, there's a house that's under construction there. Just above, if you go higher on that, Lauren, the one that's under construction, that's the applicant's property. So it's right in the middle of the deeper portion of Webster Lagoon here with the frontages on both Leeward and Virginia Avenue. That gives you, and there's no sidewalks anywhere back here. And Lauren, if you could also bring up the other photograph I submitted with the trees, if you could. Thank you. We'll mark this as Exhibit A4. So this is a photograph, and I'll have the applicant authenticate these photographs. But this is a photograph taken of the applicant's property from the leeward side. So this shows the leeward frontage. So I believe that if the sidewalk was required to put in here, that it would interfere with a lot of these plantings, which provide a nice buffer to the property as it stands now. I don't know exactly the location where the sidewalk would go, but it looks to me like it would interfere with the area where the trees are. And as I previously stated, it's just, if there's any place in Beach Haven that really there's no need for these sidewalks, it's the Webster Lagoon area. The plan that was submitted by Nelke Tiska, the drive, that was the plot plan. The house is almost completed. The driveway configuration has changed slightly, but that has no bearing on what we're requesting, which is just the overall waiver for the sidewalks. So I think at this point, I'll call the applicant, Bruce Fryer and Amy Fryer, to discuss. I believe just Bruce is going to testify briefly regarding the property.
We're both here. Am I on mute or anything? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you, Bruce.
I hear you.
Mr. Fryer, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
And your name and address, please.
Bruce Fryer, 1920 Virginia Avenue, Beach Haven, New Jersey.
Thank you.
And Mr. Fryer, how long have you owned the subject property?
We bought it February right before COVID broke out. So that's February of 20, I guess.
Okay, and this house you're constructing is going to be your primary residence?
Yes, it is. We moved down here, then lived in the old house for a while, and now we're renting a little house while this is going on.
Okay, and if you could give the board a little bit of your reasoning for requesting this sidewalk waiver.
So we are on a little peninsula, a triangular peninsula there. If there were sidewalks straight down from West Avenue on each side, it wouldn't come near us. It'd go on the opposite side of the streets. So our sidewalks would be from nowhere to nowhere. They'd just be on this little peninsula. The house at the corner of the peninsula, you've already given the waiver to, so they're not putting sidewalks in. And the house on the other side of us is not that old either, and they're not they don't have sidewalks. So ours would really be kind of in the middle of nowhere. Even if all the other sidewalks were done, which I'm not saying they should be, but we are in a unique position in the middle of that triangle. Not to mention the shrubbery that would get destroyed and other parts that Jim was talking about. But I think the really unique part is that we are on that triangle that that's isolated. You'd almost have to put crosswalks in to get to our sidewalks.
And as far as the vehicular traffic back there, it's very minimal, correct?
Very correct, with the exception of contractors, which are all over the place right now, but they'll be gone shortly.
Okay, so that's basically the application. It's pretty straightforward, the house. When do you expect the house to be completed, Mr. Fryer?
We're hoping Memorial Day.
Okay,
And like you said, this is our permanent residence. We are here all year round.
okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Fryer?
Yeah,
Anybody on the
what's
board have
the,
a question?
yeah, what's the nearest house with a sidewalk to this house? What's the closest sidewalk that's currently installed?
Probably West Avenue. Nothing on Leeward or Virginia. You'd have to go out to West Avenue and down a block or two towards the park, probably.
I can add that there are no sidewalks in Webster's Lagoon, not one.
Right.
We've asked them to put in curbs, but we've never put in sidewalks in Webster's.
And we're willing to do the curbs. That's not a problem.
Right.
It wasn't that long ago where we as a board had made a conscious decision to make sure that everybody put in sidewalks. And that wasn't that long ago. However, when I walked this property the other day, I got to be honest, it doesn't make, in my mind, to put a sidewalk there either. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I don't see any reason why there should be a sidewalk there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I remember the spirited conversation just a meeting or two ago. I'm with you. I don't see why there should be a sidewalk there.
I agree. And the streets are pretty wide and there's no other sidewalk within 10 or 20 houses from them. So it seems to be, isolated.
Not that much foot traffic and car traffic, through traffic. Okay, if no one else has an opinion, I'm going to can I have a motion to open it to the public?
I so move, Penny.
I second it, Nicole.
Okay, does anybody in the public out there have a remark about this application? Anybody raising their hand, Laura?
I'm scrolling through now. I do not see anybody. Nope.
Nope. Okay, that was quick. And I have a motion to close it to the public.
I so move, Penny.
The only thing that I wanted to add, I forgot to ask Mr. Fryer, the one photograph that we showed to the board with showing the shrubbery in front of your property, does that photograph accurately depict the current condition of the site?
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to close it to the public, please?
Motion to close.
Can I have a
Second.
second? Okay,
Penny.
Jerry and Penny. Okay. Can I now have a motion to approve or deny this application of a waiver from sidewalk?
I make a motion to approve the waiver.
But we are insisting on the curb.
Correct.
Okay,
Second, Jerry.
okay.
Ms. Baxter,
Yes.
Mr. Meadow,
I'm going to recuse myself. I work for the contractor time to time.
Okay,
Mrs. Ballmiller,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mr. Muha,
Yes.
Mr. Herensky,
Jim's muted.
How about Scott? Is Scott muted? I think he's having trouble tonight with his
Yeah.
sound system.
He's
He's
talking.
using, got his phone. All right,
Mrs. Lenhard,
yes.
Mr. Jenna,
Yes.
and Mr. Tankwas.
Yes.
Application approved.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take application 2022-02 Palaska, 229 11th Street, Unit C. This is a D variance, so Nicole and Jamie cannot participate. They can participate as part of the audience, but that's it. They can listen and comment. Isn't that correct, Bob?
Yes, at the public portion, correct.
Yeah, in the public portion, right. All right, the applicant proposes to construct a third floor above the existing rear 2-unit condominium and convert the existing first floor of the condominium into a storage area in order to have the existing building above flood elevation. The applicant is seeking a use variance for the expansion of a non-conforming multi-unit building. Okay, who's representing?
Right here. Good evening, Madam Chairperson, members of the board. Richard Visotsky with the law firm of Kelly and Visotsky, appearing on behalf of the applicant Lower Pulaski.
Okay,
Mr. Shin, do you wish to put the exhibits up?
Let me do that, but Mr. Vasaki, first, I was asked by one of our board members to just kind of reiterate the criteria for the board to decide C2 variances and D variants. So let me just take a minute before I do the exhibits.
Sure.
For the C2, and there's a number of variances, Frank outlined them in his letter, so I'm not going to reiterate them all. The C2 variances, it must relate to a specific piece of property. The purpose of the municipal land use law will be advanced by deviating from the zoning ordinance requirement. The variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. The benefits of the deviations will substantially outweigh any detriment, and the variance will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zoning plan or ordinance. So that's the C2 stuff. You guys do a lot of the C2. We do quite a few of the D variances, but again, I was asked to just kind of remind the board. For the D variance, and there is a D variance on this and our next application. So what I'm saying is germane to both of these applications. For the D variance, no variance or other relief may be granted under the terms of this section, including a variance or other relief involving an inherently beneficial use without a showing that such variance or other relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zoning plan and zoning ordinance. Again, you guys have done a lot of these over the last year that I've been covering, and now your board attorney, but I was just asked to reiterate. So Mr. Visotsky, with respect to the exhibits, there's quite a few here. A1 is your application. A2 is the variance plan. A3 is the architectural plan. A4 is the color photos. A5 is the notice of hearing, proof of service, publication, and all that's fine. A6, there's a couple letters that I'll ask you to introduce during your presentation from the unit owners that are adjacent. Under the bylaws of the association, the other unit owners have to agree that this is a good plan, and Mr. Visotsky's submitted evidence of that, so I'll let him present that later. And then the bylaws are A7, again, that kind of is what I'm talking about here with the letters. And Frank's letter is B1, March 21st, 22. Okay.
Okay.
I think that covers it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My client owns a property at 229 11th Street, which is near the corner of Long Beach Boulevard and 11th Street. It's a property that's 40 feet wide and 106 feet deep. So it's a relatively small lot. It's 4,240 square feet. My client owns the two rear condo units. There's 4 condo units on this property. And these units were built back in 1957. So it preceded all the zoning ordinances in the town. And my client has purchased Unit D back in 2018 and Unit C in 2020. So for the last 4 years, she's been a property owner at these two rear properties. Now, right after Hurricane Sandy, the two front units, shortly after Sandy, those two units were elevated. So you could park underneath those particular units. But the back portion is still below base flood elevation. And Laura Plastic is she's on a call today, and she'll talk about the flooding problems that they have at that unit. And sometimes you just couldn't even occupy the house because water fills up that bottom unit. So what we're looking to do is putting a third floor or another floor on top of the existing two floors that are there now. The first floor obviously will just be for storage and not for any residence occupation. And then my client is this is her primary residence. She occupies one of the units right now. So she will be moving into the newly constructed unit, which will be the upper unit, and she will rent out the lower unit. So basically, the way it's constructed, it really violates a lot of the zoning requirements presently, as far as setbacks, rear yard, side yard. And there's not a lot we could do with it. We can't move this structure, it's on block, but we could add the other floor to bring this above base flood elevation, which is a big problem now. And it's a big problem in the disparity of the flood insurance. I mean, the front unit only pays $879 a year in flood insurance, and Laura's units that building is $13,353 in flood insurance. So obviously it's a big hindrance for all the property owners there because of the disparity in the flood insurance requirements. So what we're planning on doing is modifying the front decks on this property, and I'll have Mr. Adamson, our architect, talk about that. And we have John Lord from FP&L Associates in Brick. He's our professional engineer and professional planner. He'll provide the planning testimony. And we also have Laura Plastic on the call. As Mr. Shin indicated, the letters that have been marked into evidence as applicant exhibit A6, they are from the Baldessers, who own one of the units in the front, and also from, I believe it's Tammy. Let's see, I got her letters right here. Yeah, we have a letter from Vicky Baldesser, a letter from Vincent Baldesser. So those are the two units owners there. And then we also had from Pat Thomas, who owns the other unit. And both of them have expressed their permission to allow Laura to proceed with this application, and as well as their approval of this application. And they would strongly like the board to approve this. So if I may start with John Lord, please, if I could have him sworn, please.
Mr. Lord. Do you raise your right hand, please? I don't see you there.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there, I'm sorry. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and your name and address?
My name is John W. Lord, Lord. My home address is 877 Ocean View Drive in Toms River.
And Mr. Lord, what is your profession?
I'm a licensed professional engineer, professional land surveyor, and professional planner.
And how long have you been so licensed in the state of New Jersey?
Around 30 years. I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly, but it's somewhere around that.
Right. Have you ever testified in the Borough of Beach Haven before the Land Use Board?
I believe I have many years ago in Beach Haven, but I've done Long Beach, Lavalette, Toms River, Manchester, many other numerous boards in and around the state.
In your field as a professional engineer and professional planner?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Chairperson, I ask that Mr. Lord's credentials be accepted.
Okay, I'll accept them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Lord, did you prepare a variance plan that's been put into evidence as applicant exhibit A2?
Yes, I did.
All right, could you please describe to the board what's currently on the site and what's surrounding the site?
Well, currently there's, as was said, there's a 2-unit elevated condominium in the front to the two condominium units. In the rear, the building was constructed in the late 50s. It's the first floor is actually made of concrete block. And then the upper floor is typical frame construction. It's constructed very close to the rear line and the side line. There's actually an encroachment onto the property from the adjoining building to the right. Again, it's about 40 feet from Bay Ave. There's other houses around it. There's the existing second floor unit is accessed by a stairway and with a deck. Again, the building has been there for many, many years, and it was just located where it was.
Okay, Lauren, could we go to the photographs, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Would you like the front or the back?
Let's do the front first, then we'll do the back. Yes.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Lord, I'd ask you if you could identify that photograph and explain what that is.
Yes, that's the elevated 2-unit condominium building in the front of the property. As you see, it's elevated on pilings with the stairways going up the side with the parking underneath the units.
All right, and does that accurately depict the current condition of the property?
Yes.
Okay, and then Lauren, if we could go to the second photo. Okay, and Mr. Lord, could you describe that photo, please?
That is the units we're talking about. The access to the lower unit is the door to the right of the picture. The upper unit is accessed by a stairway, which is somewhat hidden behind the post, to a deck, which leads up to the existing door into the upper unit.
Okay, and does that photo accurately depict the current condition of the property?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. We could go back to the your plans again. Thank you, Lauren. Okay, so Mr. Lord, could you describe to the board what we're proposing here and the necessity for the specific variances and the bulk variances that we're also seeking?
Okay, well, I mean, the building exists. It exists, the side and rear offsets, and the offsets, all of the offsets are where they are. We're not changing anything. We're merely adding a floor on top, abandoning the lower floor to storage, and adding the stairways and decks to the second level and to the two elevated floors. The parking would be between the two buildings. The variances are due to the way the building sits right now. It's been that way since 1957. We're not changing we're not making anything worse regarding the location. The building size is, again, what it is. We're not, because there's one variance is for the building's not big enough, and another variance that it's too big overall. We're not changing any of that. We're just keeping it as it is. The only thing that really changes is the stairway and the stairway entrances into the two units.
the reasoning, it's a unique property. It's a unique shape, well, not shape, but where the buildings are on the property is a unique situation. And that's why we're requesting the variances that we are.
And so basically just about all the variances that we're seeking here tonight are as a result of prior existing non-conforming situations. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
Except for the fact that we're adding that other floor, which is an expansion of a non-conforming use, even though we're abandoning the livable floor on the first floor, which is below base flood elevation, correct?
Yes, that is correct. That is the only real change.
And there's sufficient parking available for 3 spaces?
Yes, yes. It's not perfect, but you could maneuver in and out of there.
And Mr. Lord, you went over Mr. Little's letter, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there anything in there that you need to address or pick out?
Well, I mean, we can, basically, we agree with all of his letter. I mean, it's just stating that the variances and things that we need, they're all, we agree with them all. There's really nothing to address other than to say, yes, that's what they all are.
Now, Mr. Lord, are you familiar with the zoning ordinance and zone plan of the Borough of Beach Haven?
Yes, I am, sir.
Do you feel that the granting of these variances based upon the prior existing condition of the structure will any way impair or further impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan or zoning?
No,
ordinance?
no, sir, I do not think it will. It's, we're not really changing anything.
Do you feel this could be granted without substantial detriment to the public good?
Yes, I do. Again, we're not changing anything. We're not increasing the use. Well, technically we are, because we're increasing the height, but we're not really increasing the use as it is right now.
And do you feel that advancing the purposes of the municipal land use law, which is one of the requirements of a D variance, do you feel that this will secure the property better for safety and flood and fire? than
Oh,
what's
most
existing?
definitely. Most
Okay,
definitely, sir.
so the older building that was built in, well, 65 years ago, you feel that the new construction will be built to fire safety requirements?
Oh, yes, sir. It'll be definitely a much better construction. It's many of the codes back then, well, even if they had codes, weren't very strict, but certainly all the new construction would have to be up to all the current codes, which would definitely improve the existing situation.
And in raising the livable floors of this property, not raising the building, but constructing that new floor, do you feel that that would be a benefit also by avoiding a flood situation?
Definitely, yes, yes. And I know that the FEMA looks at all the towns. They look at the overall compliance with the flood, the flood elevations throughout the town. So that anything this will also help the town in their compliance with the flood regulations.
Okay, and you've looked at the architectural drawings of Mr. Adamson?
Yes, sir.
Do you feel that when they construct that new floor, it would be an aesthetic enhancement to what's currently existing on the site?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Okay, and you said we're not increasing the bedrooms or the density or anything. Everything is really going to be the way it is now, except it would be the livable floor would be on the new floor. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
All right. I have nothing further, Mr. Lord, if any board members have any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is the foundation of this building strong enough to take another floor on top?
Yes.
Built in 1957?
The first thing that the applicant did was, because I do a lot of structural engineering, And the first thing I ever did for her was to take a look at the building and inspect it and do a report. I actually wrote a letter that said it could support the additional load on the, the additional load of another floor. So yes,
And
it is.
My
sufficient.
second question is, with the parking looking so tight, why aren't they using that storage area for a parking space? Why don't they leave it open and
Well,
pull a car in there?
First of all, the lower floor is concrete block. It's not a wood frame construction. It's all
Oh.
concrete block. So it would be
Got it. Yeah.
difficult to do that.
Okay. All right.
What's gonna be the
Anybody-
new height of the second floor or the third floor?
The finished floor of the roof peak, let me see, because the existing ground floor is 3.7. The next floor would be about 13.8 to the first floor level.
I think the question was.
And then
what
what's
is
the, yeah,
The total
the
height.
roof-
The
What is the
maximum
roof
height.
height gonna be, the maximum height?
Total roof height?
Yes.
The roof peak elevation is 20.8.
no, the height.
Oh, the height? The overall height is 32 feet, 4 inches, I believe. From the ground.
Hey, Bonnie, let me take a minute and swear in Frank, just in case he needs to chime in on anything.
Okay.
Hey, Frank, raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
I do.
Go ahead. Thanks.
Any other questions of Mr. Lord?
The other question I have is in the back. The air conditioner unit looks like it's touching the building that comes into their property. It says building encroachment. It looks like the air conditioner or the proposed air conditioner platform is actually touching the building. Is that true?
But I believe that we would make sure that it did not actually touch the building. And
I mean, is there enough space that if there is a problem with the air condition, somebody even has room to work? It just looks very tight right there.
It is tight. I agree. It is very tight. And they can, the platform is rather elongated, so there's room for the air conditioner and some space up there for a person to work from the side or, from one of the ends as opposed to the side.
Could that be moved at all, Mr. Lord? Could that be brought?
We
more
could move it.
forward?
We could move it forward or back away from that,
Yeah, but
away
you
from
know,
the building.
I could see the way it's looking on the plan, though. It looks like it's touching,
Right.
So the
And we could
further
move it
away you
forward
can
or
get it
back.
from that building, I
Yeah.
think would be beneficial.
We
And
could
I also
certainly
think
move it
it's a
forward.
stretch to think that you're ever going to park 3 cars in there. I know you have them X'd out here, but I don't see turning around, backing up and getting
Well,
out of there.
The one space on the right would, it doesn't necessarily show it, but the person on the space on the far right would more than likely park closer to the building. And then you could even, the other 2 spaces could be parked over against the fence on the left side. I mean, it is tight.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that, but it's,
So Frank, I have a question for you.
Sure.
None of this property has any curb cuts.
Oh, yes, it does. It has a
Yes, it does.
concrete apron across the front where you can drive in. The
Well, it
whole,
looks to me like it's a sidewalk, a curb, a sidewalk and gravel.
yeah, but it's a depressed concrete curb and you're driving over the sidewalk and the apron to go down the side and underneath the existing.
And in the
lead.
front too, so the whole front of
Yes.
the property is a depressed
Right.
apron?
It's about, I'd say it's about 25. It's currently existing. I think it's in one of the photos. The first photo that they showed of the front.
Yeah,
you
I'm
can
looking
see.
at the photo here.
Right.
And it doesn't look so depressed,
But
but if you
ex-
say it is, I'll take your
exists-
word.
It exists and they use it to get to the rear.
Okay,
I agree, it's tight. I mentioned that a variance might need, might be needed for the parking condition. It's up to the board, but you may want to grant the variance only because I don't necessarily know if you can really maneuver those three cars. It's extremely
Yeah.
tight making that left turn.
This is Jim Stevens. I have a question is, are they actually parking cars back there now?
I think we need to hear from the applicant on that.
well, are there any more questions?
Well,
For Mr. Lloyd from the board?
I have a question.
Okay,
The-
Ken.
The unit currently is 2, and the applicant is going to occupy the top unit. The bottom unit's gonna be, I think I heard storage. So
Yes.
that would actually deplete the amount of cars being in there currently until she rents it out, I guess, during the summer. Is that accurate?
No, there's not going to be a unit on the first level. The storage is not a unit. C and D will actually be the upper 2 levels.
Okay, so then it'll decrease the people staying there. There'll be one less car there is my point.
No, it's going to be the same, Ken.
It's going to be the same, Ken. You
They're
got
just
one on the
taking the
second
lower-
floor and one on the third floor.
Yeah, there's still 2 units there with the same number of bedrooms. They're just
And she's gonna-
elevated.
Out, okay. All right.
Any other question, Mr. Lord?
Is it possible to raise the house and put in pilings so that you could park under the house?
Not, I'll let Mr.
And
Lord.
take out the block foundation?
I'll let the
Well,
structure.
Probably more expensive for them.
Anything, I was just gonna say, anything's possible if you want to spend $1 million or an unlimited amount of money. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, it is possible, but to do that, because I say the first floor is all concrete block. And, it's a concrete slab, concrete foundation and concrete block. It would just be horrendously expensive to do and very, very difficult to do. And given the tightness of the space to lift the house, because you would have to actually lift the existing second floor in order to do all that. And it's an extremely tight space to try to lift a building, because I'm sure you've seen the buildings, when they lift them, there's the steel beams are on the outside, there's cribbing on the outside, there's all this material that just would not fit in that space.
They
So what's
were
their
actually,
basic- let me
they
just-
were, they
let me
were
just-
able to lift that back unit next to our house with very limited space. They had a driveway that I think was I think it might have been 8 feet wide. They got the equipment back. They were able to lift it, remove some of the blocks so that storage area wasn't a livable space. And they put the first floor above floodplain. So that it can be done on a pretty tight space.
Well, I say anything can be done if you have enough money to spend, but it would be.
And I don't think it cost them anything more, but the other question is what's the distance between the fence line and the staircase in the front?
In the front of the rear unit?
No, the front of the front unit. What's that distance between the stairs and the fence line?
I mean, along the driveway, Jim?
Yes.
It's about 8 feet.
Doesn't,
I-
It is
doesn't,
narrow.
appear-
It is
it doesn't
narrow, but you can
appear.
drive down.
doesn't appear that it's even wide enough to get a car back there. That's why I asked the question, is anyone really parking back there?
Well, several times I've been there, there are cars there, and I did drive my car down it, which, well, at the time was like a Chevy Equinox, that size. It's tight, but you can drive down there.
The fence is on the applicant's property. I mean, if need be, I guess that fence could be moved over more towards the line, maybe pick up a foot. Is that possible?
Yes.
Mr. Lord?
Yes.
And I would like to know the distance between the property line and the stairs, the stairway going up.
Could you scale that, Mr. Lord?
The property line is, from the property line to the stairway is, let me see, 22.4, 24, 25, 29 is about 11 feet, 10 or 11 feet from the property line to the stairway.
That's with the fence line straight.
Yeah, that's from the property line, not
Okay.
the fence line, from the property line to the stairway is about 10 or 11 feet.
Was there any plans, roof decks, sun decks on this property?
Just the decks in the front for the entry to the units. There's no rooftop deck or anything like that.
It's a pitched roof, correct, Mr. Lord?
That is correct. Yes, it is.
Any other questions of Mr. Lord?
Any more questions for Mr. Lord? If not, bring your next witness.
Okay.
Thank
I'd
you.
Thank you. I'd like to call Joseph Adamson, please.
Mr. Adamson, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth? Okay, I can barely hear you. Try again.
Yes,
Okay, thank you. And your name and preferably your business address for the record, please.
sure. My name is Joseph Adamson. My business address is 124A North Main Street, Forked River.
Mr. Adamson, what is your occupation?
I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey.
And what's the name of your business?
Adamson, Riva, and Lepley Architects.
Okay, and how long have you been so licensed as an architect?
I've been licensed in the state over 20 years.
And have you been approved as a professional architect and to give testimony in front of various boards throughout Ocean County?
I have been throughout New Jersey, yes.
Okay, particularly any LBI that you could?
Yes, I've done a number in Ship Bottom and Long Beach Township. My firm has done a few in Beach Haven. I have personally not.
Okay. Madam Chairperson, I ask that Mr. Adamson's credentials as a architect be accepted.
Accept.
Thank you. Mr. Adamson, did you prepare a set of architectural plans that were submitted with this application that's been marked as applicant exhibit A3?
I did.
And could you please describe to the board the nature of the revisions?
Sure. As it's been said, basically the building currently exists as 2 units. The bottom unit on the ground floor is actually built on a slab. The walls are concrete block, and the second floor is wood frame construction above the concrete block. Each unit is a 2-bedroom unit. And as was explained, what the scope of my work was to abandon the first floor. Basically, we're going to convert it into uninhabitable storage space. We're going to remove the walls that are in there now. All it's going to be in there is the structure that supports the upper floors. Then on the existing second floor will become the new first floor, and then we'll be reconstructing a new second floor above that.
Okay. And it would be the same number of bedrooms that's currently existing?
That's
now?
correct.
In fact, will it be a mirror image of the floor below it?
It will not be a mirror image, no.
Okay. But no increase in density, correct?
No increase in density. And I will point out that the existing floors in the home right now are not a mirror image of one another.
Okay. Mr. Addison, could you talk about the revised staircase and the decks that you're gonna put on there?
Sure. Currently, right now, to get into the first floor unit, if you look at my ground floor plan, the door that is illustrated on there is the current front door to that unit. That door will remain to be accessible for storage, place to put bikes, surfboards, things like that. To get up to the existing second floor right now, there is a single run stairway along the western line of the property that runs up to a deck, and which was illustrated in the second photo that was put up. I don't have the size of the existing deck up there now, but I believe it's like 10 by 6. That leads then into the existing second unit. So what we've done now that there's more stairs, because we have to go higher, we kept the deck roughly where it is now, but we had to create a stair tower, and we did that more in the central part of the property. And really that position was put in place more to afford some privacy to the middle unit as someone's going up and down to the second floor.
And could you describe the facade of the building, what it's going to look like from the outside versus?
Sure. Right now, there's currently a flat roof on the structure. We've introduced a pitch roof on it. That gives the applicant the ability to put mechanical systems up in the attic of this space. It's not a very large attic. The question came up earlier about the total height, and the total height is 32 feet, 0.5 inches above adjacent grade. So, you know, windows were put in certain areas to, you know, complement the spaces that it's taken care of. On the second floor, all the existing window locations remain the same. We didn't change any of those. And as well as the storage area on the first floor.
And what is it going to be, a siding, or what type of siding would it be?
Yeah, we're going to horizontal vinyl side the house. It'll be asphalt roof shingles. We do have a couple metal roof accents on the house. And then the ground floor enclosure, that's concrete block. Currently, we're going to do like a board and batten siding, just to break up the siding on the elevation.
All right, so it'll be you feel it'll be an aesthetic improvement from what's there now?
Yes, tremendous.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Adamson?
Not at this point.
Okay. Madam Chairperson, any board members would like to ask a question?
I don't have one. Does anybody else have a question for the architect?
I do not.
Okay, then I'd like to call the applicant, please, Laura Plasek.
Hello.
Oh, Ms. Plasek, there you are. I'm sorry. Do you swear, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
I do.
And your name and address?
Yes, Laura Polishak, 229 11th Street in Beach Haven.
Thank you.
Ms. Polasak, you're the applicant and owner of the property, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and I did mention, and if I mispronounce your last name, I apologize.
So everyone does. It's okay.
Mine too, don't worry about it. I did indicate in my opening statement that you purchased one unit in 2018 and the second unit in 2020, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and it's your understanding that this building was constructed in 1957, I believe?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct, yep.
And to your knowledge, the front units were raised after Superstorm Sandy, is that correct?
Yes, yes, that's correct.
And it's your intention to permanently live in one of the units here?
Yes, so my primary residence will be the C, the top floor.
Okay. And how do people park at your unit now? I mean, could you accommodate 3 cars and do you ever have 3 cars there?
We can and do are two different things. It is incredibly tight. Everyone is correct in that. Yes, we do park there. Two cars can kind of be maneuvered into the back, and then the third, yes, it's possible. I don't generally allow more than 2, but nothing is changing from what it is right now. So yeah, we do the best we can, but it is very tight. I agree.
And that first, Mr. Lord indicated that first parking space, if you could move that forward a little bit closer to the house, it might give a little bit more maneuverability for the other 2 cars. That's something you
That's
could
possible.
do? Okay.
I believe, yes. Yeah.
If you have about 4 feet there further, you could move that first car up.
Yes.
Okay, so if you had a long car sitting in that first unit, it shouldn't obstruct the other 2 cars trying to get out as much, correct?
I believe so. It's hard to, to be honest, I can't quite visualize it exactly with the changes you're proposing, but yes, I'm sure. I have definitely had 4 cars in the driveway all the way in the back. So we've made it work. Yes, it can be done. Yes.
Okay. Then I also mentioned about the flood insurance. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, the front building is elevated, and that's under $900 a year. And of course, the back building, on average, we flooded approximately every 18 months since Sandy. Flooded to the point where we have to gut the entire first floor. So the last time it flooded was February of 2021, and we had to completely gut everything. So our flood insurance is incredibly high. It's about close to $14,000 for the year. And as a homeowners association, we actually split the 2 bills. So the front 2 owners share the cost with me. We combine the 2 and we share it as one. We are currently, from what I understand, on the repetitive loss list with Beach Haven, because I've inquired on that to help get support potentially from FEMA to help with the cost of raising. So yeah, it's a pretty dire situation back there, to be very honest.
Thank you. I have nothing further of the applicant. If any board members have any questions.
No one has any questions? All right. And if
not,
you have
Madam
no
Chair,
more
please-
witnesses, I will open it to the public.
Thank you. That would conclude our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to open this application to the public, please?
I so move, Penny.
Second?
Second, Tom.
Okay. All right, if you have a comment on this application, the public, please raise your hand and Lauren will tap you in and you may say your piece. Nobody?
I do not see anybody.
Boy, we got 53 participants tonight and nobody's saying anything. Okay, can I have a motion to close it to the public, please?
Motion, Tom.
I just lost everybody. Do I have a
Motion, Tom.
second?
I'll second it, Jamie.
All right, well, we're at the point now where we need to have a motion to approve or deny this application.
Bonnie, if I could, just for a second, Mr. Vasaki, does your client have authority if the board determines to vote in favor of this tonight, but move the fence? Does she have authority to agree to that without the other homeowners saying, okay?
I think she's the president of the association, but let me ask, could I ask her?
Absolutely. It's just a question. It might be a condition of approval. So I want to ask.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I would need the agreement of the other 2 owners.
But do you have a problem with moving that fence?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question. I'm sorry. Just wondering if you have approximate estimate for your insurance if that bottom floor is storage and you've raised the unit?
Yeah, I mean, given that the front building is right there, and I think that's a pretty safe estimate, and that's about $900 a year. So we'll go down, $13,000 for the year.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it my understanding that all the plumbing is going to be removed off that first floor? Which would be the kitchen, all the kitchen, the appliances, the plumbing, the toilets, it's all going to be removed?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, everything's going to be removed so that it's not livable in any way.
Okay, any other comments before we get a motion?
It just seems to me, although this application seems complicated, it seems like it's exactly what FEMA wants a town like us to do, and try to make it a little bit more compliant. I think that it's a great idea.
Okay. So are you making a motion?
I make a motion to approve. I don't know how the board feels about the fence, one way or the other. If the board would prefer that the fence be part of that, then I would put that in, but I don't need to put that in for this motion.
I'd like to put in the motion that the AC unit be moved forward so it's not touching the building. Did I lose you?
It's fine with me.
Okay. All right.
So this is a B variant. We gotta have the best, we need 5 out of 7. Mr. Metal,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Question, are we including the fence to be moved in this motion?
If you'd like to ask Ken to amend it to include that, if that's what you'd like to see, he said he would do that, so.
I just
probably
want to make a
have to
comment.
just vote no, and then start all over.
If the other two owners don't agree to move the fence, we got a problem.
Well,
That's why I wanted not to put it in. If
Right.
it-
And then
Yeah,
looking-
I wouldn't put the fence in. I think that could lead to problems down the road with the condominium.
Okay, then okay, the present motion.
Okay.
Mr. Muha,
Yes.
Mr. Herensky, Mr. Herensky,
He's muted.
He's muted again.
Blink twice for yes or once for no.
And Lauren, just the
Thumbs
first,
up.
what's
You're-
that, Bob?
just the first 7 are going to vote on this.
He
Okay.
said yes. He's not, he put thumbs up. He's voting for it.
Okay, yes, and Mrs. Lifehard.
Yes.
Application approved.
Thank you so much for your time and consideration. Appreciate it.
Well, good luck to you.
Thank you very, very much.
Nice to have a new year-round resident in Beach Haven, a young one.
Thank you.
Okay, now to application 2022-09 Tuckers 101 Southwest Avenue. The property is currently developed with a bar and a restaurant with a second-story single-family dwelling unit. The applicant is seeking approval to permit a covered outdoor dining area to the south of the existing structure, in between the existing structure and the parking lot. Seating and an outdoor bar are proposed in the outdoor dining area. Okie dokie, who's representing Tuckers?
Hi, good evening. James Raven on behalf of the applicant Tucker's Real Estate LLC.
Okay, let me just take a second here. I mentioned the requirements for the variances for C2 and for a D variance. Same thing still applies. Frank's still sworn in from last application. Just want to get all that on the record. And I do want to make a quick note to the public. I know there's been some people in the public that were upset about this application. They were trying to reach out to board members. And I mentioned this before when we had an application that was contentious a couple years ago. Please don't do that. You should not be approaching board members outside of these hearings. We have a 5-minute window for you to speak at the public portion. So anybody that's wants to speak in support of or against the application, speak then, but please don't try to contact board members, email or telephone or anything else. That's not appropriate. And Jim, if you don't mind, I'll just mark the exhibits so we can streamline this. The application's A1, and that includes a couple resolutions from prior hearings before the prior board and before us a couple years ago. The planning board resolution, December 2nd, 1991, and the conditions therein, and the land use board resolution, 2017-26. That was March 5th of 2018. You have Jim Brodowski survey, November 15th, 2017. Site plan of Jim Brodowski, that's going to be A3, is this site plan of Jim Brodowski, April 11th, 22. And Frank's letter of completeness, 2 pages, B1. Frank's letter regarding the variances, 3 pages long, B2. And again, this involves a couple different use variances and C2 variances. Okay, Mr. Rabin?
Yes, before we start, it's just the one use variance, correct, Mr. Shin, for the parking lot?
Frank identified a couple. It's a split use and then there's parking. So as long as you address the issues with both, whether it's 1 or 2, it's still the same basic issue.
Okay. So, thank you. What the applicant is proposing here, as the board may or may not be aware, the applicant was previously before the board in 2018 for a roof deck on the northwesterly portion of the existing building. And during the past 2 summers, there was a tent in the parking lot. And I think there's some concern with some of the neighbors that the proposal here tonight is going to be similar in nature to the tent, which is not the case. The tent was much larger in scale than what we're proposing here, much taller. So what the applicant is proposing is really in between the existing parking area and the building, on the side of the building with the parking lot. They're looking to put a proposed outdoor seating area with a roof over top of it. There's 120 seats proposed in the outdoor seating area, and there would be a bar and tables with seats underneath there. It's basically an outdoor seating beer garden type area that would serve food there as well. And the parking is being reconfigured in the parking lot. Overall, there is a net of 4 less parking spaces as a result of the proposed outdoor dining area, but we still have in excess of what's required under the ordinance. There's 28 parking spaces that are required, and the applicant is providing 36 spaces. So there's still ample parking well in excess of what's required, which is very unique in Beach Haven in particular. This is one of the few restaurant establishments that actually has parking. So we feel that this restaurant is well suited for an outdoor seating area such as the one proposed. We have a site plan that was prepared by Jim Brzezowski, and Mr. Brzezowski is going to testify regarding that plan and get into a little more detail regarding the variances that we're seeking. Pete Palladino is here with me. Pete is the manager of Tucker's Restaurant. He's going to speak in a little more detail about the outdoor seating area itself and get into the details of how that's going to be laid out, how it's going to be run, what the hours are. And just so everyone's aware, it's going to be similar hours to what the roof deck is, but as I said, Mr. Palladino will get into more detail about that. And Mr. Lombardi, who prepared the schematic, the drawing showing what the outdoor seating area is going to look like, he's present as well in the event the board or the public have any questions regarding that plan. And I think first I'll call Mr. Brzezowski. Mr. Brzezowski can give the general layout of the site and discuss the variances.
Okay, Mr. Brodowski. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and your name, address, and I think the board will accept you as an expert, but your name and address, please.
James Brzezowski, I'm a licensed professional engineer and professional planner in the state of New Jersey. and an employee at Horn, Tyson and Yoder, whose address is 8510 Long Beach Boulevard, Long Beach Township, New Jersey.
And Bonnie, he's testified before the board.
Yes, I
before.
know. Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Brzezowski, you prepared the site plan that we've marked this evening as Exhibit A3.
Yes, I did.
And if you could give an overall summary to the board of what exists currently at the site and what we're proposing.
Sure. The property is a 32,600 square foot lot that is between Ingleside Avenue, Amber Street, and with frontage on West Avenue. The property is kind of split into two lots. There's a northerly half of the property, which is about 110 foot by 210 foot, which contains the a two-story building, which is primarily a restaurant. There's also an apartment on the second floor of that building. And the southern portion, the portion that fronts on Amber Street, is roughly 75 foot by 110 foot and consists of a parking lot. What we're seeking to do is as Mr. Raven indicated, provide an outdoor seating area in the southwest corner of the building. So the existing building, as it fronts on Ingleside and it wraps around on the east side, and it comes down to the south, there's a little nook just to the south west of the building where we're going to propose outdoor seating. This area is to the north primarily of the existing parking area. So it will minimally affect the parking. So in order to make room for the outdoor seating area, this 1,800 square foot outdoor seating area, we had to reconfigure the parking a little bit and ultimately reduce the parking in that area by 4 parking spaces, bringing the total down on the site from 40 to 36 parking spaces. With the addition of the 1,800 square feet, the gross floor area of the entire building is 15,092 square feet. That together with the one apartment ultimately requires 28 parking spaces. Again, we're providing 36, which is 9 more than is required. So we're complying with the parking requirement. The existing parking lot to the south of the building that fronts on Amber Street, it's going to have to be reconfigured a little bit to allow the flow of traffic to come in off the corner of West Avenue and Amber Street, go one way around in a clockwise manner up towards the outdoor dining area, turn right across the center parking aisle and back down south, exiting back onto Amber Street. We're seeking a variance. There's a slight increase in impervious coverage from 94.9% to 95.3%. That's a 0.4% increase in impervious coverage for the outdoor seating area, for the covered roof area. So we're seeking a variance for that, a minor change. And the existing parking area that's on the south is in the RB 1 and 2 family residential zone. Therefore, a use variance or a D variance is required. That area, that parking area is necessary to run with the existing building. That parking lot has 29 of the 36 parking spaces for this building. If that parking lot were not to be used as a parking lot and were converted to a conforming use, such as a single family house or a 2-family house, it would exacerbate the already bad parking condition that Beach Haven is kind of been concerned with recently. So I think that the use variance to permit the parking lot to remain a parking lot in the RB zone is beneficial to the borough of Beach Haven. I really think that's about the gist of the application. They're looking to get an 1,800 square foot area for outdoor seating. The restaurant is a conditional use in the, whatever zone we're in, the RCB zone, as long as it complies with the marine commercial setbacks, which the structure does. And there's a couple of the suitability of the proposed use and structure has to be analyzed. This is an addition to an already existing restaurant. So I would suggest that this lot is suitable for a restaurant tavern, being that there's been one established here for the past 50 years. The impact to traffic for this addition is going to be minimal, if any. We're reconfiguring the parking lot to provide adequate flow. There'll be plenty of pedestrian access, as the new outdoor dining area is separated by about 4 feet from the principal structure to allow pedestrians to go either into the main restaurant or into the outdoor seating area. The outdoor seating area does not encroach into any sidewalks on West Avenue or Ingleside or Amber Street. So I think the impact to traffic, vehicular and pedestrian is minimal, if any. The impact on municipal services, there should be no impact to municipal services. It's an existing bar and restaurant, and they're proposing a outdoor dining area. The conformity thereof with the requirements of zoning ordinance of the Borough of Beach Haven for such use or improvement. The building and the outdoor seating area comply with the setbacks in the Marine Commercial District. The only variance, the bulk variance that we're seeking, is for the 0.4% increase in impervious coverage. So I believe that's a minimal impact. And then the safety of neighboring property and persons occupying such property. The proposed outdoor seating is being located as far away from the residential neighbors as we can. West Avenue is 60 feet wide, so then we've got neighbors would be over 60 feet away to the west. There's neighbors on the east side of the property that are sheltered, screened from the outdoor seating area by the existing building. And then we've got neighbors to the southeast of the property. And again, we've located this outdoor seating area as far from the neighbors as we could. So I think it's going to be a minimum impact, if any, to the neighbors.
Hey, Jim, can I stop you there for a minute? It's Frank.
Sure, go
So
ahead.
on the east side of the building currently, there appears to be activity for additional outdoor seating that's not shown on this plan. And my understanding and talking to the borough is that something to do with a permit that's permitted for outdoor seating, but you're saying there's no impact to the neighbor to the, I guess that would be the northeast or on lot 3 on Angleside. But can you talk about what that's going to be? And is that going to have an impact on accessing the parking along that side? And since you're here for a site plan, I'm not sure if that shouldn't have been shown on there somewhere. And Lauren, I think you had a picture that,
I do have a picture, you said.
and I'm just, if you want to show that picture of what's actually going on there, we need some information on that.
Yeah, I'll
Give
have
them testimony.
Sure. Yeah. Before Jim comments on the parking, I'll have Mr. Palladino speak to the activity going on over there. And I can speak to the fact that I think what the applicant was doing, I'll have Pete testify as well. But the outdoor seating that's proposed on that easterly side in the area where there's those 7 parking spaces is permitted by way of a permit, being that there's no permanent structure there. And that was not going to increase the overall seating at the restaurant, so that it was able to be permitted without going before the board. And Mr. Palladino is in the process of doing that, whereas what we're showing on the site plan for the proposed outdoor seating on the southwesterly portion of the building, that is not able to be permitted by way of this new outdoor seating ordinance, which just went into effect a month ago. So that was the reason for applying to the board with respect to that aspect of the application. And one other thing I did neglect to mention, in the event the board were inclined to approve the proposed outdoor seating area that's 1,800 square feet, as was indicated, there's going to be a permanent structure with a it's open, but with a roof that's going to be built in that area. That's obviously not going to be built in time for this season. In the event that the board were to approve this application, the applicant would request to be able to utilize just that area as shown on the plan to have open outdoor seating area with no roof. That's kind of a secondary point, but I just wanted to get that out there, that the applicant would like to utilize that for this summer if possible, in the event the board were agreeable to that and approves the application. So now I'm going to have Mr. Palladino sworn in.
Mr. Palladino, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Okay, and your name and address.
Pete Palladino, 53 Lafayette Drive in Manahawkin, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Palladino, you're the current manager of Tucker's Restaurant?
I'm our director of restaurant operations for Fearless Restaurants. Yes.
Okay. And you're involved with the operation of Tucker's?
I am, yes.
Okay. So there was a question from Mr. Little, and there was a photograph shown regarding activity on the easterly side of the building. If you could explain to the board what your plan is in that area.
Sure. As part of the outside seating ordinance that was passed by Beach Haven, in my conversations with folks over at the township, both in building zoning as well as with Mrs. Mason, as long as there's no permanent structure over there, we are allowed to take inside seats and put outside seats there. So using round figures, if we have 300 seats inside, I can then have 200 seats inside and put 100 seats outside. There are a myriad of rules that we have to follow in order to do that, but to take seats and put them out in front to kind of create a sidewalk bistro, I believe we were allowed to do by that ordinance. So that was what was happening here.
And as shown on the existing site plan, there's a wall that begins on the Ingleside Avenue side of the property and begins to run along the landscaped area. So you're not encroaching further into the parking lot than that wall is with this proposed development. Is that correct? It's being squared off essentially to become a rectangle?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I notice on the plan, it's showing there are dumpsters being relocated and a fence being removed. So does that open that parking up in the back a little bit more there?
It does. There's a large container that we have wood in for our wood burning grill. That's going to go away. There's a small dumpster that we use for the town's recycling that will get relocated. And then there was a lattice fence that is shown there as well. That was scheduled to go away as well.
And so that parking is used by your clientele or by employees, or I'm just curious.
Whoever, I mean, it's used on a daily basis now.
And people do get in and out of that by pulling in and backing out, I take it, since I don't see any other. Oh, actually, are you able to drive around the building or no?
Yes. So I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr.
That's okay. They will be, because right now, no, because there is that existing fence that is shown there.
Right.
So once that is gone, the idea is to create flow of traffic coming in there. So theoretically, you could pull around and head out onto West Avenue.
Okay, so then you won't have to back out into Angleside.
That's correct.
All right. Well, I think in any event, this, depending on what the board does, the plan should be revised to show the correct configuration of that wall. And, obviously, if you're complying with the permit conditions the borough has for just moving seats from inside to out, if this is approved, are you going to remove, are you going to continue to use that east side, or
Yes, I think that's
on the west side?
So we would continue to use the east and the front of the building, which is the north of the building. The reason that we're here in front of land use is because what we're seeking for this beer garden area would be additional seats to create out there.
Okay.
Mr. Palladino, I think it doesn't look like the flow of traffic proposed will allow anything to empty into West Avenue. You're going to put it onto Amber Street.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That would be Amber Street, yes. Wherever the exit at that point of the parking lot is, yes.
Okay, and if that is sufficient for the board with respect to the questions on that area, I'll switch gears back to Mr. Brzezowski.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. You have dumpsters in the right-hand side of the east parking lot, and you have dumpsters between the new proposed area, but both of them say dumpsters to be relocated and removed. So where are the dumpsters going?
So the dumpsters would be in that area between the proposed area and the building, that little cubby there. We are just moving them around inside that corral.
Okay, because it says they're going to be relocated. That's why I was just curious.
One is just, we have a shed there. The shed's going to go away and the dumpster is going to go where the shed is. So that's the relocation of that one. The other two on the east side of the building, the larger, it is our wood container. I think it's labeled on this as our dumpster. That just goes back to the gentleman that we got our wood from. So that just goes away. And the other smaller recycling dumpster over there, we'll work with recycling from the town and figure out where the best place to put that is.
Okay.
I have a question. It's Penny. Since there will be people outside there where the parking is on the side of the restaurant, is there an issue with cars coming in and out of there? It doesn't look like there's much of a wall or protection for the people sitting outside eating next to all that traffic coming in and parking and leaving.
In the proposed beer garden area? Is that what you're?
No, on the side of the building.
Side of the building. So
Well-
right now there is a paver wall. You can see in the picture that is 2 feet high. What we're doing on top of that is a 4-foot white PVC fence to protect as well. But there's no way that a car could get over that paver. It is 2 feet high.
Okay, well, okay, I just worried about not the car, but the people coming,
understood.
stepping out into that parking area, but
There's
if
no,
it's
there's no entrance or exit from there. The entrance and exit from that space
only,
will be on the north side of the space, and they will
Okay.
exit then out onto the sidewalk.
okay.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Brzezowski, if I could return to some of the testimony that you had previously given. So the proposed outdoor seating area on the southwesterly side of the building, is that also something in your opinion that would promote the general welfare and that it provides a need to the borough of outdoor dining that is becoming more and more popular and much more in need from the public?
Yeah, I think if anything good came out of COVID, it was the fact that people seem to love outdoor seating. And restaurants were allowed to provide outdoor seating. So, for the period that the restaurants were allowed to provide it and people came out, the restaurants seemed to thrive. So this is something that, the people, the patrons of restaurants who come to Beach Haven, who come to Long Beach Island, they want outdoor seating areas. And so this is providing a need for the local folks as well as folks visiting Beach Haven.
And under the C2 variance criteria, that benefit would outweigh any potential detriment as a result of the proposed outdoor seating area?
Yeah, the location of the outdoor seating area is located as far away from the neighbors as we could. So I don't really see much of a detriment to this outdoor seating area. It's going to have a roof over it that from what I understand can open up to allow sun to come in. It's like a louvered roof that'll open up and allow sun to come in. So during the daytime, we can have it open up and have a beautiful kind of trellis shaded area. And at nighttime, you can close the louvers and kind of keep the noise underneath the roof. So I think it's
What's the overall height of that structure?
I wasn't provided with elevations or architectural elevations. It appears, to my guess from looking at it, would be about 12 to 15 feet. So I would say let's call it 15 feet max.
Okay. What about illumination,
Pardon me?
lighting? How's it going to be lit?
I'm sure there'll be lights that hang from the roof area to light up.
Well, you're not going to have anything up there this summer. It's just, from my information, there's not even a tent, right, Tim? There's just seating out there if this was passed?
For this summer, right, they wouldn't be able to build that in time for this summer, but the idea.
But they
would be-
wouldn't put up a tent over that area.
Correct. Right,
So it's just outdoor.
right. But when the structure is built,
Right.
what type of lighting would be there?
I would say low voltage string lights, just like we do everywhere else.
Okay.
I also have a question. Will there be any kind of music out there? Will they be having a guitarist or anything like that during the time it's open out there?
I would love to have an acoustic guitarist out there. I don't know if we've gotten that far in our plans. I think that we all want to be conscious of our neighbors and not making a whole lot of noise. And so, I would say that could certainly be a concession of ours.
So another question are the seats. Are you taking seats from the inside to this space as you are on the east side?
No, this would be new seating. This would be additional
And
seating.
how many new seats are you talking about?
I want to say there was 120 on the initial plan.
Doesn't really say here on this plan. But
Yeah, the layout, if you count the seats, I believe, including at the bar, it's 119 seats as shown on the
Okay,
plan submitted by Mr. Lombardi. So call it 120 seats.
okay.
And-
And what kind of tables? Are you having picnic tables like you had last year? Or are you having round tables or what?
No, they would be a lot nicer than picnic tables, industrial outdoor tables.
Okay.
Is there any plans to expand your kitchen? Because I'm sure when they designed the restaurant for the amount of tables that you have in there, your kitchen has to be able to provide for that. So now that you're going to increase it by 120 more seats and the upstairs deck that was on there before, are you going to have to revamp your kitchen to handle workload?
We've been very conscious of our pacing and how we put people through their dining experience with us. So we found a magic number of, seating 65 people per 15 minutes is our max that the kitchen can keep up with. We've been very lucky that there is a large kitchen in there. And so we've created kind of a back line to the hotline. So it was certainly challenging, but I think with COVID, especially last year where we had the entire tent, which was, call that 290 seats plus inside dining, that was challenging. And at times it was too big, and we had to put the brakes on. So.
Another question, if you're not going to have it built by the summer and you want tables out there, are the planters going to be there to be some kind of barrier from the cars coming into the parking lot, turning around and going out?
We
making that
still
mute.
have our barriers from the COVID expansion with our tent. So if the board so did approve this, we would certainly put barriers there, and they would either be the barriers that we have that are water filled or concrete or something temporary.
Okay. Any other questions for them?
What are your plans to clear the deck when time's up? Because we know that patrons like to linger when they eat. And if you close your deck off at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, depending on the night of the week, people do linger. We know we had some issues with the upstairs deck. How are you going to handle that downstairs?
You know, that's tricky. I think that we've all been out to eat, and none of us like to be chased out of finishing our glass of wine, you know, out of our seat. You know, so we, you know, when we close up, we do last call and it's closed, and we are then the music's off and we are letting people, as opposed to chasing them out, letting people leave kind of on their own. But at that point, there's no music, no more service.
What's the hour that your music has to go off upstairs on the deck? Is it 10 o'clock?
During the week, it is 10 o'clock. On the weekends, it is 11 o'clock.
And what would the proposed hours be with the new outdoor seating area?
Similar. I mean, we open for brunch on the weekends, so call it, you know, 10 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday through 11, and then midweek, you know, 11:30 through 10.
Okay.
And again, this is a space that's only going to be really used when it's nice enough outside to sit outside, you know. Here we are we just got to May, and I think we just last week started using our outside lower deck. You know, so just a couple of 4 months.
Mr. Brzezowski, the proposed seating area is located entirely within the RCB zone. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And with respect to we're requesting a variance for the buffer that's required in between the commercial use and the residential area. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
that's a variance that was granted at the previous application for the roof deck area that was approved. And basically the same arguments apply, that the existing fence on the east side and the existing parking area provides adequate buffer from the existing restaurant. And this area in particular is further screened by the existing building that lies between this property and the residential use to the east.
And from a planning perspective, it's your opinion that it would be more beneficial to continue to use that area on the east side for parking rather than providing additional screening in that area?
Yes. Again, parking in Beach Haven is a premium. So the more parking a business can provide, the better off the entire borough is.
And with respect to the parking area in the RB zone, I believe you testified that that's always been utilized as the parking for this restaurant, is your understanding?
Yes.
And it's, as a result, it's particularly well suited to continue to be used for that purpose?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments? Questions? No?
And as I stated previously, Mr. Lombardi is present if there's any questions regarding the plan that was submitted by Mr. Lombardi, but I don't have any direct questioning for him.
Okay. Is that,
That would conclude our application. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Jim. All right, could I have a motion to open this application to the public, please?
I so move, Penny.
Second? Joe, okay.
All right. We got a couple hands raised. Mark Katz, if you want to state your name and address, Mr. Shin will swear you in.
Mark Katz, 201 Southwest Ave, Unit B in Beach Haven.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So we bought we're right on the corner of Amber Street and Southwest. So we're basically right across the street from that parking lot. And, we bought in 2017. You loved to support Tucker's. I mean, when we bought, it was just kind of this small local bar that we loved. And, we wanted to be away from all the noise and the traffic, and it was a pretty quiet area. When that roof deck was built, that to me tremendously changed the pedestrian flow and the traffic, and things changed, dramatically at that point. I mean, it was very noisy. I think us and several of our neighbors complained about the noise, and I hear it, right across the street. I think that noise kept me up, plenty of nights, and just the whole dynamic of the neighborhood changed when that happened. There was trash all over the place. Every morning after, the weekends, I'd have to go pick up, the plastic cups, neighbors and myself, so people urinating, it was not the same, neighborhood. So to me, I wasn't so excited. I thought that was enough outdoor space. I mean, certainly didn't like the tent, but understood that during COVID, and we all lived through it. And now I don't think you need any more outdoor space at Tucker's. I mean, I think they got plenty with the outdoor deck. I know none of the neighbors in the area are in favor of that, of this extension. I don't know if there's not going to be covering built over the summer. They could plant another deck, tent over it. To me, it's changed the whole neighborhood that we bought, that we really loved, 4 years ago with the deck. And I think this is just going to make it even worse. So I'm like vehemently opposed, even though I love Tucker's. I love to go there, love to support them. I just would be very upset. I think it's detrimental to our property values and the noise and the quiet quality of life we have when we go there. And that's why we bought it, Beach Haven, Long Beach Island, why we didn't go to Seaside Heights. So, I can't imagine them having not music out at that place, because they had it last year at that bar all the time. So I'm very skeptical when they say they're not going to have people playing, bar music out there. And, that's all, that's basically all I have to say. I'm like vehemently opposed to granting this variance. I just think it changes the dynamic of the neighborhood and why we bought there. Even though I love Tucker. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Michelle Pecora.
Yes.
Raise your right hand, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
And your name and address, please.
Michelle Pecora, 525A Amber Street, Beach Haven.
Thank you.
I have to say that Pete has been absolutely wonderful for me, working with me. Met with him several times on issues that I have. My home is directly behind that side lot. My issue is not so much with the beer garden as it is that side lot. I am happy. When I first started living there, we bought the house in 2017, and there was nothing there except parking. And then the storage container came that got attached to the building. And then a dumpster came that had paper. Then a dumpster came that had the wood storage. Then the two large dumpsters came back around to that lot that when they had the tent, they had to relocate the dumpsters. It was so much, it became a dumping ground. I went to him, I talked to him, I lost my mind. Those big dumpsters were up against the fence. When the lids were open, they fell over my railing. My entire property backs up to that side lot. So, okay, he worked with me. He said the dumpsters aren't coming back. The wood storage is going away. I understand that we're putting in this side dining area, but the lattice was put there so that I didn't see what was happening over there. My request is that something go at the end of that side dining area. I don't want to sit on my back deck, which you can see on those plans. That deck you see is my deck. And I really don't want to see people eating while I'm sitting on my back deck. I'm concerned about the traffic pattern that is legitimately running along my fence on my property and how that's going to work with people coming in that side lot and going out the other side, and the traffic on Amber Street. I live on Amber Street. I'm a little concerned. That's basically my concerns. And like I said, Pete has been great, but I'm really worried about all those issues.
Hey, Molly Fallon.
Ma'am, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
I do.
Okay, and your name and address, please.
Molly Fallon, 514D Ingleside Avenue. I'm going to read my comments if that's okay. So my family lives right next to Tucker's. It's our year-round and only residence. We're active in the local community. We patronize local businesses. My husband works for a business in town, and my son attends the Beach Haven School. He's in 6th grade there. I'm telling you all of this because I noted that one of the objectives in your borough master plan is to attract open collar workers and their families as year-round residents, and that's what we are. We could have purchased a larger home on the mainland closer to where my son will be attending middle school next year and shortening my commute 2 days a week to Manhattan. But we love the Beach Haven community, and it's where my son grew up. And we decided we wanted to stay a part of it, and purchasing a small condo next to a restaurant is how we were able to stay. We knew we were purchasing a property next to a restaurant, and we're fully aware that there was going to be inconveniences associated with it. Some were expected, like noisy patrons, scarce street parking, delivery trucks and dumpsters, just to name a few. But some we didn't expect. We can actually hear the live music coming from inside the building at night. Empty glasses are left on the curbside, and construction noise has been going on for the past few weeks all day long, which now I'm learning is for outdoor seating that will be directly next to our property with no buffer. But I'll come back to that. I'm here tonight to respectfully ask that the Land Use Board deny the application for the outside dining area at Tucker's, which will have a negative impact on my family and the lives of the surrounding residential properties in the multifamily Bay District. For some, it may be about property value or rental income, which are valid concerns, but for me, it's about the quality of life for my family. I spent a lot of time looking over the applications and the plans and the master plan, and I just feel that with additional seating and an outdoor bar, we're concerned about the noise that comes along with this, in addition to the noise that we already have. I'm here to tell you as a full-time resident who has to get up every morning and go to work and who has a child that this will be disruptive for our everyday lives. Again, we can already hear the music coming from inside the building. Also, as I just mentioned, there's no 20-foot buffer that's required between the commercial property and our adjoining residential property, just a fence because of the variance from 1991. Now it sounds like there's going to be new outdoor seating right next to our property, which I'm still a little confused about how that happened and why that's allowed. It sounds to me like a paver wall with a fence is a permanent structure, but I'm not sure if the Land Use Board is the correct audience for that or not. Again, I'm still a little unsure about that. The restaurant has already been granted multiple variances over the years. They've received approval for the deck, which from the documentation that I read, it was limited to service of drinks and appetizers, and now it's full dining service. So I guess my question that I propose to the Land Use Board is, when will the variances end? Please take the impact of the neighboring residents into consideration and deny the application for increased noise on a property that has already received numerous variations and has no buffer to the adjacent residential properties. It's not the way to attract year-round residents and families. Thank you.
All right, Trish Gill.
Hi, Actually, I'm Letitia Gambala, and I own the home at 442 Amber Street. And I apologize that my camera card has pooped out on my schmancy computer here. So I will raise my hand in my bedroom here on 442 Amber Street and take my oath of telling the truth, if that's okay with y'all.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
And just again, for it, because I was finishing my notes from the last witness, would you just state your name and address again for me?
It's Gembala, Gembala. Right, and it's 442 Amber Street.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. I am concerned about this additional 125 seats as well. Amber's, we've owned this home since 1968, and so we're not new. My husband and I are getting to the point that this will, in the next 5 years, become our permanent residence, or that's the plan. The difference in the traffic on this street is exponential, truly. It has become a racetrack. If we add another 125 seats, that's going to really be a terrible thing. And dumping all of those cars out onto Amber Street so they can come flying down, and everybody blows the stop sign here at the corner of, is that Delaware? Pennsylvania Avenue anyway, going either direction. We ought to put a cop there. If you guys want to make some money, put a cop there. We could get a lot of moving violations, but I'm really very concerned about this. And my neighbor, Renee Hughes, who is unable to be here tonight, asked me to read a letter from her as well. And if I can do so, it's says, I am unable to attend a land use board meeting tonight, but would like to share my concerns to the officials representing the town. I'm sending this an email I have for your consideration. She did send it to a few people. I did not receive notification of the application. However, it has been shared among residents. I'm concerned that the request.
Bob, should I mute her for right now?
Yes, she should be muted.
She's
Yeah, go ahead. I'm trying to tell her he can't really present that. It's hearsay.
Right.
So can't present something. From
You can't read a letter from somebody else. You have to come yourself. And
I
you can tell us
apologize.
whatever your concern is.
I wasn't looking at the screen, so I did.
I was trying to stop you, ma'am. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying
No,
to.
I didn't think you were.
The board is a quasi judicial
But
body.
okay, so I'll go on with what I think is a problem. We have been another thing that, we have angled parking that's been put onto our in front of our houses, which, by the way, we got no notification about. We were at one point, we were going to be asked to support a bond for an ordinance to purchase trolleys to accommodate business parking issues in the area, but that hasn't come up. But the congestion has really become unbearable. In the last 2 years with that tent out there, it was awful. And now you're going to add another 125 seats. It's really impinging upon my ability to enjoy the evenings. As much as parking is the noise of people coming, and believe it or not, the plastic cups, the trash that's actually on our street as well, I pick up, and the urination, that's just lovely as well. We had little kids that were able to play on this block, and I wouldn't let little kids play on this block now in the summertime. Anyway, I just think it's an impingement on our quality of life on this street. So thank you very much. And I do apologize for trying to read that letter. I didn't realize that wasn't allowed.
No problem. That's fine. Thank you. Next one, Lauren.
Melanie? Chef?
Hi.
Hi.
Here.
Go ahead, Melanie. And try to may I say, since we have quite a few, try to limit to 3 minutes, please.
That should say something.
So I live across the street.
Let me swear you in first. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, I do.
And then your name and address. I need you to just say it for me.
My name is Melanie Scheckman, and I live in Amberview Condos, 130 Southwest Avenue.
Thank you.
So I moved into my condo in 2020, and I've endured the Tucker's tent for 2 years. And trust me, I go to Tucker's all the time. I'm there at least once a week, if not more. The noise level is deafening, and it's the music. Music should not be allowed till 10, 11 o'clock at night. It's not just an acoustic guitar player. They often have amps. There's been people there with electric guitars. It sounds like it's right out my window. And, you know, I thought Beach Haven had a 10 p.m. noise ordinance, but the music often went way past that. And then patrons lingered, and the more they drank, the louder they got. And I often had to put my air conditioning on in an attempt to drown out the noise, because the bedrooms are facing West Avenue in the condo. And the noise is what I'm concerned about. I'm not even concerned about the structure. It's enduring that noise. It's really unpleasant. And that's all I wanted to bring up, is the terrible noise.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank
Christine?
you.
Who's the next one?
Yeah. Christine Little.
Okay, let me find her. Oh, okay. Ms. Little, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Okay, and then your name and address.
Christine Little, 100 Southwest Ave, Unit 3, Beach Haven.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm part of West Winds Condo Association. We have 4 units that are directly across from Tucker's on the West Ave side. And as has been affirmed, the atmosphere in this area has changed completely since the outdoor dining experience, and not just the issue during COVID with the tent. We also had the addition of the rooftop deck, which allows for the staircase that comes down and sort of spills people out onto West Ave. So the traffic patterns have completely changed, and as they will continue to change with their proposal of this new 120 seats. And Pete and I are quite familiar because I discussed the issues, hello Pete, with him a lot. And honestly, what he has expressed is a lot of them are not solvable because there's no longer deliveries happening off of Angleside, because the dumpsters are there now, and maybe that'll change with this new traffic pattern. Their deliveries are essentially taking place at the base of our driveway. Sometimes the delivery drivers will pull up along the Angleside, on Tucker's side of West Ave, and sometimes they'll pull up at the edge of our driveway. And there's a number of times where I've been unable to get out of my driveway because of the deliveries. I discussed it with Pete, and one of the issues is when you have deliveries, the drivers change all the time. So even if Tucker's were to say, here's our delivery process, many of them were so confused because of the tent, they couldn't get in. And now I'm assuming with their new traffic pattern, a big 18-wheeler isn't going to be able to circumvent that turn, come into Tucker's and come back out. So we're going to be continuing this really inconvenient thing where deliveries are happening on the street right in front of our driveway. Then the other big issue, because from my front door, I open my front, I don't even open it, it's glass, and directly across my driveway is the hostess stand. So they haven't discussed what the situation will be there, but as one other person testified, it has always felt like they're give them an inch, they take a mile. So what we might hear now of, the tables and chairs have already been purchased for this. They were delivered about 3 weeks ago. And so what happens now is the hostess stand is right at the base of the staircase along the southwest side of the building. And there's a hostess stand there, and the people line up in the street. So they're conducting business basically on the public sidewalk in the street. And then oftentimes like when it's at its peak, Thursday through Saturday, people will actually line up at the base of our driveway to wait to be called for their table. And then you also have the issue of cars driving by completely confused about where is the entrance to this restaurant. So the drivers will be distracted, staring at where the hostess stand is, and then they'll stop often again at the base of our driveway to offload their passengers. And then sometimes, we're trying to back out and we have to wait for people trying to drop off their passengers because they can't park in a reasonable distance to the restaurant. So these are all issues I brought up to Pete. Any of the outdoor music is an inconvenience, whether it's live or there's speakers. Our bedrooms are whatever the width of a street is and whatever the length of our driveway, our bedrooms are right there. So we hear the music, even if it's just their speakers. So if they're going to propose, well, we won't have, like he said, oh, that could be a concession. I don't feel like this should be a negotiation. It's either the borough wants to have a 120 seat restaurant with right across the street from homes, or they don't. I don't feel like we should be negotiating, well, as long as the music stops by 8, as long as it's only through a speaker, because you can't allow for human error. The speaker is often left on overnight, and I get it, people are closing up, it's hard. So, we'll go out to take a walk at 7 in the morning and there's the music, so.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. All right, Lauren, April?
April?
Who was that, Lauren?
April, it just says April's iPhone.
April, okay. Ma'am, would you raise your right hand? I don't.
Well, she's muted. She needs to
Okay.
unmute.
Okay, and I don't see her. Is there a video? Or just,
No.
okay, well,
Well, go to the next person, Lauren.
Okay, James.
James, you're muted.
okay, James, is that James at the bottom, Lauren?
No, he's at the top.
There you
It's
are.
he and his wife. There they are.
Well, I see people talking. They're talking, but I can't hear them.
I can't hear them either.
Yeah, it shows that they're unmuted.
Yeah.
And they're talking.
They're waving.
All right, is that it then, that April?
But just so April and James know, if you guys can get your phones on or whatever, we'll come back to you. But maybe let's just see if there's anybody else, and then they can figure out what their issue is.
Yeah, she's going just a minute, but I don't know how long that is.
60 seconds.
Very funny, Scott.
Does anybody else in the public have a comment?
I raise a hand.
Oh, now he's working.
No,
James,
that was down. I think that was somebody
Dr.
else. Frank Bowen.
Oh, okay. Mr. Bowen's at the bottom. Mr. Bowen, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and Frank Bowen, and what's your address, Mr. Bowen?
My address is 100 Southwest Avenue, number 2.
Thank you.
So I would like to reiterate a little bit of what Christine has already talked to. We do live directly across the street from. We do understand that the tent was put up during the period of COVID.
you're breaking up. We can't hear you. There's something,
Is that a little better?
that's better.
Yeah, I do
And
understand the
please
issues.
try to keep it to 3 minutes too.
Yes, ma'am. I do understand the issues with COVID and the surrounding. The issues in the neighborhood, again, as we have raised, have become paramount. We are having a lot of traffic issues. We're having issues late at night, with really drunk and disorderly. I honestly have to say we're picking up trash daily in the neighborhood. The restaurant, while they weren't supposed to have bands outside, they frequently have bands playing in the parking lot, which go on
till 11 o'clock at night. So it seems from our standpoint that as they've been granted the variances, they are pushing the limit a little bit. We're concerned as a homeowners association that adding another 130 seats outdoors is going to generate another at least 25 or 30 cars that are going to impact the neighborhood, and the traffic has become dangerous. I honestly have to say, the kids try to play basketball outside. We have cars coming through that aren't looking, they're constantly dodging the cars, constant traffic outside, everybody, filling into at Sunset, filling into the end of Ingleside to look at the traffic. So it has become dangerous and really a mayhem situation. So I would, respectfully request that we deny this application.
Thank you very much, Frank. All right, did Cheryl Benedict? Lauren, try her.
Yeah, she hopped back on.
But she's muted. Oh, there she is. Good.
Hi.
Oh.
Hi,
Oh.
Bob. Raise
Yeah,
your
we-
hand.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
Yes,
And which one or both is going to testify? Which?
both.
Okay, we'll start.
Cheryl.
Cheryl Benedict, your address for the record.
203 Southwest Avenue.
203 Southwest. And then, sir, what's your first name?
James.
James, thank you. Go ahead.
So I respectfully would like to ask that the land use board deny this application. I, like many of our other neighbors, love Tuckers, have supported them through the pandemic, understanding of the tent, but the quality of life in our area has changed so dramatically in the last 5 years. We purchased our house in 2008. We kept it as an investment. We did not rent it. We saved to pay it off so that we could retire here. We retired here in 2018. And the environment and the dynamic of the neighborhood from the day that we retired here in September of 2018 till now has changed, not for the good. The amount of people that we find walking through and across not only our neighbors' yards, but in front of ours, who are carrying drinks, leaving trash, dirty face masks, empty cups. It's every week. It's not just on the weekends. When we get into peak season in July and August, it's not just the weekends. So the amount of trash is unacceptable. And I don't see the neighborliness of Tuckers helping us clean any of it up. It would go a really long way if there was more of a, we're all in this together kind of an attitude, and there has not been. With respect to the noise, there have been evenings in the summer where we have all of our windows closed and we can still, and the air conditioning on and the TV on, and we can't hear our TV because the music is so loud coming from the outdoor, musicians.
There's a house between us.
Yeah, and there's a house between us. We're across the street. The back entrance of the southwest corner of the parking lot, diagonal to our backyard. So it's a considerable distance. With respect to the people who are congregating after the bar closes, we have seen urination, defecation. You heard me right. There was someone actually defecating. And this is not the neighborhood that we moved into and wanted to retire to. I don't know why it's considered okay, but it's not.
Okay.
I'd like to add that, I guess I have a couple quick questions for Pete. Over the past 2 years, when you had the outdoor dining and the tent, I never saw evidence and doubt that you ever sent anyone out to the surrounding neighborhood to pick up a lot of the trash that you've heard many neighbors, say that we saw on a daily basis. Like I said, cups, things, menus from your restaurant, things like that. And, had you been a good neighbor, that would certainly have been in your plans to say, okay, look, you know, the wind's blowing this way. I want you to go out today, head east, because we had a west wind, and get some of that stuff off our neighbors' properties. That hasn't happened. So for me to have an expectation that that's something that's going to happen going forward, I'm sorry, but you know, I don't have faith in that. I do have some specific questions about the site plan. There currently are no sidewalks where the parking lot is that abuts West Avenue and Amber Street. And I can't tell from the plan, it looks almost like the cars parked are going right up to the border of West Avenue. So is there going to be a sidewalk there? There is no sidewalk along Amber Street either. So is that in the plans, and how's that going to affect the parking? Because it does get narrow towards that
corner,
Amber side corner, because of the way Southwest kind of bears to the left at that particular point. So that's one concern. There was a wedding outside one weekend where you had all the wedding guests and celebrating, and as they should, but you know, the DJ had them, you know, chanting basically, and we called and it continued. And so again, there was no response from the restaurant.
I actually walked over to ask to speak with the manager, to plead with just saying, could we please turn it down just a little bit? Because at this point it's 11 o'clock at night and it's been all day. And they assured me that it would, you know, that they would turn it down, and that never happened. It continued to go on. So, you know, I've gone over there multiple times, walking over face to face to say, please, can you please ask the people outside to turn down the music because it's so disruptive. And I always get a yes, and nothing changed, and the music doesn't get turned down.
And we'd also, you know, as many of the other people that testified tonight said, we enjoy Tucker's.
Yeah.
And we, you
Always
know,
have.
I remember going there when it was the Portico, you know, and friends went there when it was Gus and Whitey's. So, you know, we are long-term Beach Haven people and love, you know, going there. So it's not an issue of that. It's just an issue of how it's changed over the last couple of years. And again, we did understand COVID, and, you know, people had to do what they needed to do, but there certainly could have been a lot more done on Tucker's part to be more neighborly regarding that. Thank you.
So we, you know, respectfully request that the variance is denied.
Yeah.
All right, April?
Hi, can you hear me?
There you
Yes.
go.
Hi.
Ma'am, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and all I see is April's iPhone, so I need your last name as well.
My name's April Myers, Meyers,
Your address.
525 Amber Street, Unit B.
Thank you.
I also am opposed to granting the variance. What I'm hearing is we were very patient. We moved in 2020. I understand the pandemic. There was a big tent out there. Lots of noise. Our driveway with the traffic often looked for people trying to squeeze spots. And now that, I'm not saying the pandemic is over, but we're in a better place. The outdoor seating that they're proposing on this path in the back of us, where they don't need to get a variance, it's not just the 120 they want the variance for. What about those extra seats? All those people outside making all that noise. And now you have a traffic pattern of they're going to come in from one side and go out the other. So now we're going to have traffic behind us as well. When they say that this is, you know, what people want, what about the people who pay the taxes here and live here and want to enjoy their property? This is upsetting. It's not why I bought a house here. And I would ask that you deny the application. I mean, I'm very concerned about the fact that in my backyard, there's going to be a patio with, I don't know how many people are they going to have on that side yard? Can you ask? I don't know who I'm asking, but I don't feel it's just the 120 new seats. I feel like, how many people can they fit on that back patio that they're proposing? behind us.
Mr. Palladino will answer that.
Hi there. So on that side patio, I want to say it is maybe 40 seats, 44 seats, something like that.
So, I mean, I really don't care what you do inside. I care what you do outside. So to me, putting 120 seats, it's not 120 seats, because who wants to sit inside in the summer? They want to sit outside in the summer. I get it, but I live there. I live right behind it. When the dumpsters were there, you didn't hear from me. I mean, Michelle was upset about it, and I was upset about it, but I understood during the pandemic. The fact that you're moving the dumpsters, now you're putting a bunch of people, not happy about it. We can hear you all the time. I enjoy Tucker's as well, but you have a rooftop, you have a covered patio on the other side. It's just enough. And I would ask the board, if you lived where we live, would you be happy about this? Does this improve your quality of life? Because it doesn't for mine. I think I would just say I'm opposed to it.
Okay, Teresa?
Teresa, raise your right hand, please, ma'am. I don't see you.
Okay, how are we now?
Oh, there you are. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Do you, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
yes,
Okay, and I see Teresa. What's your-
it's Teresa Chasko. My address is 130 West Avenue, Unit 107. I too live directly across the street from the entrance, the side entrance, the West Avenue entrance to Tucker's. I live at a vantage point where I can see the staircase that goes upstairs to the apartment above the building. I have a bird's eye view of everything that goes on at Tucker's, pretty much a bird's eye view. I have two comments. My first comment is to Mr. Rabin. The Zoom meeting number you gave us in the letter that you sent April 22nd was incorrect. Several Amberview owners texted me looking for that correct Zoom meeting number. I was lucky to get it through Beach Haven, Engage Beach Haven. So maybe Mr. Rabin, you want to check your facts before you send out letters. And my second comment is to Mr. Palladino. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Back in 2018, Tucker's was given a variance to put up a rooftop deck. At that time, there were many conditions put on that variance. Two of the conditions were that there would be no outdoor music. Another condition was that the entire place would close at 10 o'clock on weekdays and 11 o'clock on weekends, which meant that if it closed, all patrons must exit at that hour, and all the lights needed to be extinguished at that hour. Mr. Palladino just skirted around those two conditions. Well, we don't want to throw anybody out. We want people to enjoy themselves. And so, well, if they're still there, we're going to wait for them to leave. I'm sorry, that's not correct. If you're going to be granted a variance and you're going to have conditions, you need to follow the law just like everybody else in Beach Haven does, particularly the taxpayers. We pay our taxes. We're good citizens. We deserve some consideration also. And my third point is, I really don't understand how parking is going to be resolved. If there are already 300 seats inside the building and you add another 120, that's 420 seats with 20, I have to check my notes, 28 parking spaces. Do the math. Where are all these patrons going to park? I can tell you where they park. They park across the street. They park down the street. They walk. They park wherever they feel like. So for these reasons, I have to oppose this variance in this edition. The neighbors are very unhappy. I've called the police many times. They come. You all get a little bit slap on the wrist. Next night, same thing. I've got video evidence. I can show you videos where patrons were on the rooftop deck at 11:30, 11:45. So my question is, if you're not going to follow the conditions that you had in 2017, 18, 19, what makes me believe that you're going to run a clean operation this time around? Thank you.
Okay, is there any more public comment? Bonnie, you are muted.
I don't see any more.
Yeah, I do not see anybody.
Hold on,
All
hold on.
right.
Somebody
Oh,
on the
I
net.
see one. There's an
Alexander.
Alexander. Do you see, he's on page 2.
He's on
Here.
page 2 at the very top. Sir, you gotta take, okay, you're off mute.
Are
Sir?
you off mute, Alexander?
Can't hear you.
You can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Lauren, you don't have him muted on your end, do you?
No, I do not. It shows that he's unmuted.
Okay.
Well, I guess there's nothing we can do about that. Are you there? No, he said, he said, forget it. He can't do it.
Okay.
Nobody else. I don't see any others. All right, in that case, can I have a motion to close it to the public comment?
I so move, Penny.
Second,
Second, Tom.
all right. Do you have any more questions, comments about this application before we make a motion to approve or deny?
If I could first just have Mr. Palladino would like to address some of the public comment. Mr.
Okay.
Palladino.
Hello, and I'll preface this by saying, we've always tried to be good neighbors over at Tucker's. We do have folks that work with us every single morning out there cleaning, going around picking up garbage, and if they miss stuff, then I sincerely apologize. Admittedly, I don't send them, a block south and a block north and a block east. They are cleaning up our property. That's something that we do have. We've just tried to look at our business every single year and figure out ways that we can grow. So to me, some of this is personal preference. It's like we're just trying to do something that is within our bounds, considering we have more than enough parking, a way to expand our business to just maximize those 15 weeks that are summer. Tucker's has been a restaurant for 50 years, and I think we're very, very lucky that our business is growing. And I think some of the traffic concerns surrounding our business don't necessarily have anything to do with us. There's more people in Beach Haven, which is wonderful for all of us. They're buying sunglasses at our stores, they're eating in all of our restaurants, they're drinking in all of our bars. The flow of traffic last year was, we took up all of our parking with that tent. That's not what we're talking about this year. So I think that last year we had 0 parking in that entire lot. Now all of a sudden we gain all of those spaces back and only lose 4 spaces. So yes, we are adding seats as part of the outside expansion from Beach Haven. And then is this proposed outside beer garden, but still not nearly as many seats as were under the tent with 0 parking. So now you have less seats with all of a sudden our parking there. I know there was a comment about our deliveries. Our deliveries no longer should be delivered in the street ever. I mean, our parking lot's back open. And even after this reconfiguration of the parking lot, drivers will be able to get in and out to make their deliveries and hopefully not have to interrupt anybody's basketball game or whatever's going on in the streets out there. The past 2 years of COVID, this was survival. I think all of us were trying to figure out how to make this all work. Can we survive multiple shutdowns? Admittedly, yes, we had outside music out there that was, I'm gathering, too loud, and that's not something that's going to happen again. And so we were finding that people, even last year, that when we had inside dining, people were nervous. People didn't want to be outside, or inside rather. They wanted to be outside, and that's where we kind of followed the business to where the people were. Yeah, so I think that's really all that I had, and like, I worked very hard with Michelle, our neighbor in the back, Michelle Pecora. And like the second that we can get that wood dumpster out of there and make that side of the side of our property look great again, believe me, that's what everybody wants on our side. So we're just looking ways that we can expand. I don't think that the parking is a direct reflection of how many seats we have inside, outside, on the roof. That's a direct reflection of how many people are coming to visit Beach Haven. And every other business in Beach Haven probably has the same issue that we do. There's never enough parking spaces. Traffic flow is going to increase regardless of whether we have inside or outside dining. That's just the nature of Beach Haven getting busier. So if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you, Pete. And I would just like to add from a variance perspective as well, that I believe Mr. Brzezowski did satisfy the requirements for the variances that we're seeking this evening. And within that RCB zone, this is a permitted use, conditional use, subject to the conditions set forth in the ordinance. As we discussed earlier, we are seeking the variance for the buffer. We do have those 7 spaces on the easterly side of the building, which could be given up. We would still comply with the parking requirement, and that could be used for additional screening and buffering. But as Mr. Brzezowski noted, it would seem to make more sense to have the parking there, because the parking in and of itself, having the cars there, serves as a buffer. And also, we know the parking problem in Beach Haven. So I think from a planning perspective, it makes more sense, but the applicant would certainly be willing to work with the borough with respect to that as part of this application. I believe Mr. Palladino addressed most of the neighbors' concerns with respect to the noise. I think one of the difficult things we have here is this is coming off the 2 summers of COVID, where we had this tent that had, as Mr. Palladino stated, almost 300 people out there. There was music playing out there. Everybody was doing what they could just to get by. There's going to be no music outside. There's none proposed. Mr. Palladino said that they were fine having no music out there.
There would be music like through speakers, just
No
ambient,
live
no
music,
live
right?
correct.
Yeah, no live music. With respect to the, somebody made a comment about tables and chairs having already been purchased. Mr. Palladino, is that true?
None of those chairs and tables are for anything on this application. They are to replace the tables and chairs on our lower deck. Some of them are for the upper deck, and most of them are for this outside seating ordinance in Beach Haven. So nothing has been purchased or done relating to this application.
Okay, and I think it really is unfortunate that this is coming before the board after seeing the giant tent in the parking lot for 2 years. This is a much more tasteful look that's going to be there, and it's something that would be very nice and well suited on this property and a benefit to Beach Haven. So for those reasons and the reasons we expressed previously, we would request that the application be approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonnie, you're muted.
I know. I just realized that. Popped up and told me. Are there any more questions or discussion with the board members before we make a proposal for this?
Yeah, this is Jim Stevens.
Okay, Jim.
Listening to the residents, I think there are some issues here that need to be addressed. I mean, there was a little bit of discussion there, but I think there need to be some real assurances. And I guess my first one, which is is on the eastern side of the building, they're talking about seating. I'm not seeing that on the plan. I don't understand that.
That's a whole different thing. That's not really even part of this application. That's just something that Frank brought up tonight.
Okay.
That is approved with the new ordinance in town for outside seating after COVID.
Okay. What I'd like to see them try to do is work on the plan to provide the buffering along Ingleside, eastern side of the building. Right now, there's 8 or 9 parking spaces. I like to see the buffer there. And it looks like the whole thing can move in the driveway can move in closer to Tucker's. So that those properties there are.
Are you
protected.
talking about the east side of the building?
The east side of the building,
That's not part of this application though,
no, but there's parking there.
right?
It is part of the application because they want to make it, if they want to make, in my mind, if they want to do an expansion, there's no reason that we can't ask for them to address the concerns of the residents. And in my mind, on the eastern side, where there is parking, which they say is excess parking, I believe there should be buffer along there. I mean,
So
just
you'd
because
rather
of-
see the parking spaces go and have a buffer?
or I like to see a buffer there, whether the driveway can come in closer to the building. There's some landscaping there against the building, whether that can be removed and the buffer put against the properties where it belongs, not against the building. And I like to see the same thing off of Amber. Is there buffer that can be put in that's better than what's there now? There's no sidewalk along South West Avenue.
Well, at the best, I think there should be a sidewalk.
You know, there should be a sidewalk. So I think the plan needs to be reworked based on what we're hearing from the residents. As far as outside noise, you know, if speakers are a problem, there shouldn't be speakers. I mean, there's other ways to communicate. You know, you don't need speakers, you know, while they're using the speakers to announce people their table is ready, or they're using.
I
speakers
think
to
that's
play
just the
music.
music. I think that's music.
Well, that, if that's an annoyance to the neighbors, that probably should be stopped. There's no reason for it. And I think there should be a commitment to very strict time. You know, if they're dilly-dallying past 10 o'clock, you know, when the neighbors expect at 10 o'clock, that there's going to be silence.
Well,
and it goes on
the
to 11.
noise, I don't know that but the noise ordinance in Beach Haven is 10 o'clock during the week. And I think Friday and Saturday, it's 11. And that's it, you know, so if they have permission up on their upper deck to play music, they can play music till 10 o'clock on the deck, but it wasn't live music that was approved. It was just mood music, I guess. But I don't know what happened during COVID, but I do remember that application and the thing about music, because we're very sensitive to noise, but there's nothing, I mean, I had issues with where I live with noise, and there's nothing they do. I don't know why, but that's just what happens. They can't do anything. Maybe Tom could speak to that.
It gets difficult to ever enforce noise ordinances. I mean, unless it's really out of hand.
Right.
Especially in the side neighborhoods. And sometimes we swear they have scanner apps and they know we're coming.
Right.
So it's hard to say.
I think
You
one
know-
of the issues that has happened down at Tucker's in the Marine District since COVID is the new restaurants have all opened. Everybody was outside seating, and that's where everybody went, because it was kind of like the new area, outside seating on the water, view of the water. So everybody just went there. And that's why I think there were so many people. And I mean, there's no excuse for the trash. There's no excuse for the urination. There's no excuse for the defecation. But I don't think that's Tucker's problem. I think that's the individual's problem. There are public bathrooms down by Bert and Betty's, but those are the closest. And I don't know what the inside's like. It's just, you know, it's the people that show up in the summertime that do these things, and then they leave, but it makes it miserable for those that live around the area. But you have to understand, when you bought your house, you bought it near a commercial area, and things happen, and there's no guarantee with any of that. I mean, that's just the way it is, you know.
And don't give them a variance.
Trash trucks come at 6 o'clock in the morning in the residential area where I live. And so noise is a problem everywhere you go. And if it's a commercial district, for some reason, trash seems to be a problem. And there don't seem to be enough trash cans on the streets because the borough doesn't pick up the trash on trash cans on the street. So there's just a lot of issues here that need to be addressed and with this application. I don't think it's perfect. I think there should be a sidewalk where people, if they're coming out, can walk instead of walking in the street. I think it's dangerous. I did that last year when I came out and I said, there's no place to walk here. You're walking in the street. And I don't think that's, if you're emptying people onto the street, they should have some place to go, and they don't. They go to the street. And then you have traffic coming down there. So there are a lot of issues. I mean, like everybody said, they love Tucker's. It's just managing the issues, the trash, the people, the traffic, all of that, and the noise.
So
I think
Bonnie,
some
it's Frank-
aspects,
it's Frank Little. So I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, the application for the outdoor seating on the east side is pending. It hasn't been approved yet.
But
And
that's
look-
not part of this application. though,
Yeah,
that-
but it might be, because according to the ordinance, it says no change in grading will be permitted in order to create an outdoor dining area. And they've created a new wall and they filled in the grade to square the seating off. That is not in accordance with the ordinance. I know this plan is under review, but I'm reading the outside seating. It says no change in grading will be permitted in order to create an outdoor dining area.
I
Once
see what
you-
you say. So they filled in that little curvy
Yeah, they
section to
squared it off
all.
to create more area at the same level. That doesn't comply with the ordinance. Also, the ordinance does say you can't have any live music outside. And again, it talks about, you can have music, but you have to be cognizant of the neighbors. The other problem is with this application, you could require the 20-foot buffer and eliminate the parking. You could ask for an 8-foot high fence. There's a lot of things. I don't think just putting a sidewalk in on West Avenue is going to cure everything I heard from the residents.
Well, I don't either, but I'm thinking it gets people out of the street, Frank.
It does, but there's a lot of other issues
Right.
with this
I'm
application
just
that,
expressing mine. I'm waiting for other members to express their
need
opinion.
to be addressed.
Right.
and I think some of the aspect is people are a little bit sore from all the outside, and everyone's tired of COVID, and everyone's still
Yeah.
trying to recover from that aspect. And let's face it, everyone's tired. I mean, as much as we love the outside seating, it's wearing on the nerves because there's no parking, the people are loud, everybody's doing what they're doing. And so maybe this is an inopportune time for Tucker's to pursue this at this point, because people's nerves are a little bit shot on it.
But I mean, all these problems are not just Tucker's. They're everywhere in town.
Oh, I agree. I
don't think,
Wow.
everybody should come down on Tucker's because all these problems are everywhere in town that need to be addressed.
No, but you have to fix them one at a time when you have the ability.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't disagree. I like the outdoor dining, but it should be right, and everything we can do possible should be done to make it correct.
Right.
mean,
Well, I think we all agree with that, but that's easier said than getting done.
Well,
that's why
let's see what they can come up with. They've had our input, they've had the residents' input. Let's see what they can do.
And that's why I brought up the idea of the size of their kitchen. Twice as many people sitting in a restaurant doesn't make it twice as good. It could be actually to the detriment of the restaurant. We don't want to see the restaurant fail either by allowing them to have more than they can handle. I mean, and I'm no expert on that either, but I'm just throwing caution out there.
Well, let me ask you, Bonnie, are we suggesting they carry it for a revised site plan? Or are we suggesting
Well,
it?
I would. I mean, so they can address some of these. They could come back with another plan that would address these concerns of the neighbors.
Okay, so Mr. Raven, address this to you. You're on mute. Okay, there you go. Thank you. We've done this before with applications that are contentious. Would your client be agreeable to coming back before the board at the June meeting? And
Potentially, and we haven't heard from all the board members. If we go that route, it may be helpful to receive more feedback if we're going to revise the plans.
The only thing I'm going to say is if the board votes, on it, they may vote on it tonight. So,
Well, not to vote on it, right? No, I just meant as far as comment, but I guess I would request a minute or two just to speak with Mr. Palladino to see what he would like to do.
okay.
Okay.
Connie?
Would you rather hear from more board members?
Yes, if we could do that first, that would be beneficial.
Yeah, I think it would. The board members could come up and what they think would be beneficial to make this application better.
Thank you.
This is Penny Eddles. I'd be happy to comment on what I've heard tonight from the various neighbors. Is an issue. I can understand how they feel being across the street from a very popular restaurant. However, they are, in a business district, so they have to kind of deal with what they get. But I think your rooftop area dining is great, and you can see the bay, and even the little patio you have outside on the first level is open, and you can see the bay, and it makes sense. But the other one on the south side near the parking, that and 120 people, I don't get that one. I think that's a lot of people. I know they want to be outside, but they're not, there's no view. You're viewing the parking lot. And again, it's much more noise for the neighbors. There'll be a bar out there, I assume, which will be great for the people coming to sit outside. But again, people, when they drink, they get louder and louder. And then the east side one, again, they're looking at a parking lot. It's not even a nice place to sit. You're outdoors, but you don't see the water. And again, it's more issues for the neighbors. So I don't know. I think there's some concerns with, as everybody said, it's the noise, it's the trash, it's
But Penny, do
the
you have,
loud music.
Penny, do you
times-
have any suggestions about what?
No.
would make you think
I
your
wish I did.
application Better. I mean, I've written down sidewalks, no music, a buffer, check on the sides of the kitchen.
If the east side is passed, maybe something that, like Jim said, better buffer, maybe not even having the cars there at all, because we're losing a lot of car space. But that would make some sense. And I don't know how to buffer the south side. 120 people is a lot of people. And I don't know how to buffer that to make it
Well, they buffer
quieter.
it with- They're buffering it with planters.
Yeah, but that's not gonna help the noise level of 100 people.
The roof would, I
Yeah.
think, once they get the roof, if they had a roof, but all right. Anybody else on the board like to make a comment?
I
Ken?
do. I feel that what Frank said, I think it's incumbent upon ourselves to find out what is the maximum that we can ask, because I think everybody on this board knows my feelings about what happened at the Chegg, and this seems like it's the exact same thing. I think we need to listen to the people. It's not our job to reward businesses that are successful. That's not our purview. That's not what we do. We're supposed to protect the town. Now, that doesn't mean we can't reward, but we have to do it responsibly. And if you ask me right now today, I don't have a good answer on how to make that happen. I would like to have a conversation with Frank and understand what our options are. So if I was forced to vote today, it would not be in favor of Tucker's. However, I would like to listen to what we could do to satisfy the people and create an environment that's conducive to business. I don't know the answer to that right now. And if you ask me to vote right now, it would be no. So I need to educate, and I'd like to talk to Frank.
I agree with you. I think Frank could probably have some good answers for us, but we need to listen to him and find out what they are.
Uh-oh.
You're on, Frank.
Well, I mean, again, it's really up to you. I mean, we're hearing from residents that have buffer issues and, you know, I mean, at this point, you'd almost have to wipe out the parking on the east side to provide the 20-foot buffer. We granted them a variance previously based on the use that they proposed back then. And we didn't think they needed a buffer. Now they're going to have outside seating on the east side right up against the residence. The current ordinance doesn't talk about that, but they're before you for a site plan. So you
Frank,
could
a
ask for
buffer-
the buffer. You could ask for the buffer. You could ask, you know, a densely planted buffer, an 8-foot fence, eliminate some activity. You could reduce the number of seats, the size of the deck. There's a lot going on here.
Can you reduce the hours? Can you reduce the
Sure.
hours that the outside space is
There you go.
populated?
Well, Frank, you had said that the raising of that, with putting the block in that
Yeah.
soil, that's frankly against the ordinance.
Right. Basically, what's going to happen, and I'll have to talk to the borough. They have to put that back to where it was, and they can only use the elevated area, which will probably reduce the number of seats on that side of the building, because once you square it off, that gives you a pretty good area to put seating. But based on the ordinance, they have to put that planter back the way it was in order to be permitted to get a permit through the borough. But I guess the concern I have is too, even with this borough permit, you're in the residential zone. Restaurants are permitted in this zone, but you're buffering a residential use. And that's going to be a real nuisance.
He said, she said.
So,
Joe, did you have something to say?
Bonnie? Yeah, Bonnie, I had a.
Yes, Joe.
Just a
Go
real
ahead,
quick
Joe.
one. When I first read the application, I was pretty much all in because I'm pro-business and I like business expansion to provide services for the people in town. But what began to make me loosen up a little bit, and I kind of agree with Ken as well, and with Frank, and I'm not sure if what I'm going to say is going to be possible from I guess, a legal perspective or an agreement with Mr. Palladino, but the comments from the residents were pretty consistent. And what I would like to see is this, if I were to vote right now, I'd have to vote no, but I'd like to make it conditional or hold it maybe for another vote maybe in June. But I think we should consider maybe, I don't know if this is possible. Again, I'm looking to the legal people here. If it's possible for maybe the residents to meet with Mr. Palladino and set up some specific demands or conditions that they would like to see improved, and possibly have Mr. Palladino address those and then come back to the board. And the way we worked it out with the Atlantic Electric application, there are certain conditions that would have to be met since we're not a board that can enforce anything, but perhaps we can have something in writing that addresses the concerns of the residents and hold somebody to task here, because it sounded pretty obnoxious that the garbage issues were coming up and the personal habits of some of the people that were eating at this establishment. I'm totally amazed because I love Tucker's, and I'll admit, vote for the rooftop deck. But this one is having some issues that I don't think that could be resolved at this particular meeting. I think the issue is between the residents and Tucker's. And I think if they have those two come together and come back with a plan or an agreement that's consistent with what Mr. Ray-Ban would agree with, and Mr. Sheehan and Mr. Little, perhaps that's the way to go, because I don't think the board could really vote yay or nay on what's been presented so far. There's just too much going on. It's much too complex. So again, I don't know if I've offered anything or we've gotten to a further end on this one, but that's what I would recommend, was some kind of a meeting or something with Mr. Palladino and the residents. Otherwise,
Well, I'm also confused, like what's more important to Tucker's? The east side eating out space or the west side? And I mean, are you willing to give up one to get the other, or is the east side that important? Because that would solve the problems with the neighbors that live over there. I don't know. I kind of feel like I don't think I could vote on this tonight the way I don't know
I
what.
feel the same way. I feel the
Yeah.
same way. It's too complex. It really is.
There's too
Well-
many, I mean, there's a lot of neighbors. We had, I think, 10 people comment tonight on this application, and that's a lot.
And we don't know
So-
how many more couldn't get in because they might have had the wrong number from the notification.
Right, right. So,
It seems it's very early in the year. Maybe I'm the only one that doesn't spend all my time going down to Tucker's. I don't even know if they're open yet. But if it's so early in the year and there seems to be expectation from the neighbors that there wasn't supposed to be music and there is, it's 10 o'clock and people are finishing their last glass of wine, they're lingering, there's noise, there's speakers. Maybe they start 2022 opening this season now, doing the things that maybe they were supposed to be doing and redoubling effort on trash and doing those types of things to build some confidence with the neighbors that when they say they're going to do something, they'll do it.
right.
You know, it's early in the year. You can start 2022 fresh. This wasn't going to open in May anyway. So there's at least a calendar month of efforting to, you know, make it a better situation.
And they weren't going to get it done for this year anyway, so they could actually go the whole summer and be good neighbors and see what the neighbors think then.
Right, and not do
Okay.
not do it till next year.
Can't they?
Maybe have 1 or 2 days they could ask for, I'm sorry, have 1 or 2 days they can ask for a special permit to have a beer garden outside and cordon off the parking lot like they want to do it. Do a trial run, see how it works, because I know that they can request an ABC expansion, I'm pretty sure, for that little area there. And give it a dry run, see what happens.
Right.
Can't we put conditions on where they can't go over 60 people instead of 120?
Who's
and
talking?
Eliminate the
Oh.
outside speakers?
Who's talking? Is that Al?
Yes.
Get closer, Al. I can't hear you.
Can we put conditions on that it's only 60 people instead of 120 and remove the outside speakers?
Right.
And have them police the neighborhood for garbage.
All right, I'm across the street from Tucker's every night, and I hate to.
Public comment.
And you
is-
can't speak.
You
Public
can't
comment,
speak.
sir.
You're not
They're
open to the public.
completely out of control. Totally.
Lauren,
Could
I got
you,
it.
So
I
guys,
just-
this is Scott. I want to chime in and say one thing. They asked for some suggestions. They're advertising this as a beer garden. But if they're going to have a bar out there, one of the last things the neighbors are going to want to hear is another industrial strength daiquiri maker whirring up crushed ice and making drinks. Put the condition on, we're limited to beer and wine.
You
That's
know,
another thing they can do to back down on noise.
this is a D variance and it
Yeah.
requires 5 out of 7 affirmative votes, and it's a very high standard. And if there is a substantial detriment to the public good, that is a major problem right now with this application.
Thank you, Frank. Actually, I was going to repeat that. I mentioned that in the last application, but the D variance requires no variance or other relief may be granted under the terms of this section, including a variance or other relief involving an inherently beneficial use, without a showing that such variance or other relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zoning plan and zoning ordinance. So based on all that, I'm going to suggest to the board, you're probably not going to be able to get any kind of consensus tonight other than say no. Because if you say yes, you're going to put all kinds of conditions on it that we probably can't agree to at this point. It's probably a good idea to just ask Mr. Raymond to go back to his client, carry this till June and maybe even later, for them to come back with a site plan with perhaps buffering, sidewalks, all the things you're talking about, and give us some definitive answers on limiting the outside noise and maybe eliminate some of the seating. It's just a suggestion, but that's what I'm hearing from the board. If you vote on it tonight, you have to not get 5 affirmative votes. is where I'm leading with all this, Mr. Raymond. So as much as, we could decide it tonight if you want, the board could make a decision tonight, but based on the criteria and the concerns of the public, I don't know that you really want to go that route.
Yeah, I think based upon the comments, we're certainly going to request that this be carried. If I could just have a moment to speak to Mr. Palladino to see whether we should do the June meeting or the July meeting. So if I could just
I
have.
think July would be a better bet, Mr. Raven. I think that's a much better idea. Frankly.
Okay.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
business.
we're busy.
Is the board okay with me having a minute or two?
That's it, a minute or two.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's 9:09.
Well, Mr. Rabin's not a hockey fan.
Clock's ticking. We still have an ordinance behind us, don't forget.
I know, we still have this ordinance to discuss.
Lauren, do me a favor real quickly while they're on hold. If it goes to July, the 4th is the Monday. Obviously, it's a holiday. So is our next meeting July 5th, the Tuesday?
Yes, let me check the website real quickly, just to
Yeah,
clarify.
You're a lot more computer literate than I am. If I did that, I'd log out and you wouldn't see me anymore. So, yes.
This is Jim Stevens. I
Thank
heard
you.
one of the neighbors mention in the notice that they had the Zoom meeting number incorrect.
That's right. I heard them say that as well. So,
So is there a defect in the notice there where they have to renotice and we have to start over?
that's a good question. I'd like to check into it before I give you an answer. And quite frankly, if we're going to carry it to the July meeting, we'd probably reopen it to the public anyway. So,
Right.
if we decide it tonight and it's affirmative and there's a defect, it could probably be a problem for us. Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Raven?
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to my client. The July meeting would be preferable, as Mr. Shin suggested. Is that July 5th?
It is
Yes, that's
Tuesday,
a
July 5th.
Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
Right, it's a Tuesday. Okay, so Tuesday, July 5th.
Okay, so members of the public that are still sitting out there, what is going to happen tonight is there will not be a decision tonight. The board's going to carry this application for 2 months. The next meeting will be July 5th, 2022, a Tuesday, not a Monday, at 6 o'clock. No further notice to the public. Lauren's going to put it up on the website so everybody knows it. But that way the board can come back. That gives Mr. Brodowski and Mr. Little a chance to maybe come up with some amended site plan. Correct, Mr. Little? Possibly some buffer issues, maybe a sidewalk, all the things that were mentioned tonight can be raised between them so they can come back in July with revised plans for us. Good synopsis, Bonnie?
That's a perfect synopsis. Do I need a motion to do this?
Yes.
Carry it, I do. Yeah, wait a minute. Joe, yes?
I do, and I hear things about site plans and everything, but I don't hear anything about addressing the needs of the public. And as I mentioned earlier, I think there should be some kind of a symbiotic approach between the neighborhood and Mr. Palladino.
But that's
And we're
between
not
them.
done.
I mean, we can't, they have 2 months to do that. Hopefully they will make the effort and get together, but we can't demand that they do that.
Okay, well, then I ask that they do it.
Yes. I think it would be nice too, but that's up to them personally.
Please talk to each other, maybe include that. Okay, thank you.
This is Dr. Bowen. We
Be
will
kind, be kind.
involved in these discussions.
That's right. All right. Can I have a motion to carry this application to July the 5th, which is a Tuesday, 2022?
Motion, Tom.
Second. Penny, Tom and Penny.
All right, Mr. Meadow,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mr. Muha,
Yeah.
Mr. Muha, sorry.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Herensky
Yes.
and Mrs. Blenhard.
Yes.
Right, application carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right. One last thing. This new ordinance, who's going to explain this? Bob or Frank?
No, Frank, I think
I thought it was
Frank-
me. Frank?
I got a lot of problems with it, but go ahead. Somebody explain.
I'm gonna explain it, I guess.
Thank
Frank,
you,
if you don't
Bob.
mind, I'll
Tonight,
let-
tonight, Frank.
No, I mean, it's my understanding that the borough had to just redo this definition to make it consistent with other parts of the ordinance. So it has to do with how we define substantial improvement.
Well, how about
and-
how do you define older home?
I don't know. I don't have any answer for that, other than my understanding is that does that go back to parking possibly, the off-street parking, right? The
Yeah,
problem is
you
that
don't
you
need-
get
yeah.
into some of these houses in town and they don't have any way to provide on-site parking.
Right. But
So
you're
if they-
basically talking about the historical area,
Right. But.
and it
I mean,
doesn't say
that-
anything about that in the ordinance.
It does. It says that does not include the historical area. It's
Oh, it does
section
not
3.
include it?
I'm pretty sure it says something
Says
about,
any alteration of a historic structure, provided that the alteration will not preclude the structure's continued designation as a historic structure.
Yeah, explain that, Frank.
I don't know if I can.
it means just that. That's pretty
Who writes
straightforward.
these things? I mean,
A
really?
lawyer.
Jamie, you want to help me out on this one? I see you're there, but you're muted.
Yeah, I think you're just, what are you reading? Are you just reading the purpose?
Well, no, down at the bottom where it actually changes the ordinance.
Yeah, the
Under
only thing that it
substantial.
changes is, the only thing that changes is that homes that are not having a substantial improvement do not have to meet the parking requirement. So if you
Period.
are a home that wants to put a deck on their house and they need 3 parking spots, but physically cannot put 3 parking spots because their house is an older house, then they can still do that because they're not substantially improving their home. So we never had a definition for substantial improvement in the zoning. So now we
Okay.
do.
Got
And
it.
now this limits an older home, which we don't have to define an older home. It's if they want to do something to their house, we want them to be able to improve their property. If they can't put parking because they can't pull a parking spot out of nowhere.
But it's not for them to take parking away.
No,
If
no,
they
no,
have a
no, it's
parking
just a-
space, they have to keep it, but they don't have to try to create another one.
Right.
Correct, because they
Unless they're
physically can't.
substantially
Unless
improving.
they're,
the property.
right, unless they're substantially improving their home, but we needed to have a definition for substantial improvement because we didn't have a definition for that. So this allows someone to improve their property.
What's the definition of substantial improvement now?
It's
What's
the
it-
same, go ahead, Frank, it's the same one, we just never had it in our zone.
We never
It's
had
the
it in
same-
this section. It's in other
Right.
parts of the ordinance regarding flood control, but we never had it in this section.
And what is it?
Well, it's you read it, it's any reconstruction, rehab, or other improvement of a structure, the cost of which exceeds 50% of the base replacement value as determined by the assessor. So
Base
basically,
re-
the tax assessor
I
has,
always thought it was the assessed value, but
well, I think it's the assessed value adjusted to the market. The assessor has a black box, and he puts a number in one end, a number comes out the other end, and you take 50% of it. I can't explain
right.
it any other way, but all of them do it.
So this,
Yeah, it's the
the
same,
whole-
it's the same thing for the building code. So
Right.
that would make,
Correct.
if you did
Oh.
50%,
So
it brings it
the
up to
whole-
the,
Again, the purpose of this ordinance was actually, it was introduced, well, not introduced, but it was suggested by our new zoning officer. And he
Right.
was getting applications that people wanted to improve their home and they couldn't because they couldn't pull out parking spots because they were older homes. So he saw a need for this. We wanted to clean this up. And so that's the whole purpose of this.
So it's perfect.
okay.
perfect in every way.
It's perfect in every way. It just needs your blessing to move it into the code book.
All we need
That's
is a
right.
letter from
I have
Lauren.
no feeling on this.
They want input, so if the board has no opinion, you can say that. If you want to say it's okay.
mean,
Lauren, letter.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Bob, but I had the same problem with Bonnie. I read it, but my reading comprehension didn't connect. So, but what Jamie said, it seems pretty basic, that it's a well-intended ordinance or whatever it is, but it sounds well intended. And that would be my opinion.
I just don't know why they can't write them so people can understand them. I mean, they make it so
Put the
difficult.
lawyers out of business.
Oh, my God. That wouldn't be a bad thing. No offense, Bob.
No offense, Bob, yeah.
That's fine.
Oh, all right. So we think it's fine. Is that what
Makes
we're
sense.
saying?
Kind of makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want me or Lauren? Probably Lauren should send a letter over to the mayor and council tomorrow.
Laura would love to do that.
I would.
Look at her. She's smiling. I think she's excited about it.
She would love it. Yes. Another
Sure.
thing on her list to do. All right, that's it then. I think we're done, guys.
Boy,
We have a
10
motion
minutes
to
early.
adjourn. Yay!
Yay!
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Have a good night.
Good night.